It's time for a little Funky Friday. From their funky hidden headquarters, your hosts, Keith and Gerry. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Minefield and Friends. And our special guest this Friday is, of course, none other than Gene Roddenberry. No, it's Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, let me tell you about Star Trek. Well, thank you for. I have to tell you, you've got me in the most elated mood that I've been in all of 2021. Not just because I've had my first vaccination shot, but because I just witnessed, literally moments ago, the greatest episode of television I've seen in I don't know how long, which is the season finale of For All Mankind, second season finale. My God, what an episode of TV! And it just made me weep because I'm like, every person involved with modern Star Trek should watch that show and feel ashamed.
Preach.
Because I love the show. I watch it religiously. And I didn't watch it last night because I was busy watching episode 7 of Invincible, which was fucking amazing.
Well, I mean, I tweeted out right before I came on the show, I said, For All Mankind, the season finale of For All Mankind crossed the finish line like Jesse Owens at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Yes, it does. It's that damn good. So, and the final shot, I'm thinking about the final shot right now, and I'm getting that when Darth Vader says, "No, I'm your father," and that whoosh that you got through your body the first time you heard that, I got that whoosh just for the end shot. I'm not to oversell it. And,
I refer to that as the 13-year-old that still lives inside you, because I get it. I get almost weepy when certain things happen, and I get the goosebumps, and my whole body shudders, and it is that same impact that, like, when I went to see Empire the first time I was actually 15, and that movie blew my mind.
I cried twice this morning at 2 different shows.
But that's high praise, though, Robert. You have to think about it. Not many people can relate the Vader father moment to anything that's come out recently. So that's high praise coming from you.
But I got to tell you, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a moment where one character takes another character and shows them something they didn't know about. And they get to witness this thing. I've lost it. I
don't understand all the backlash that show's getting because Keith and I, we're very anti-woke. I enjoy the crap out of it. Yes, there's a couple of stupid woke moments in it, but overall, it's got that feeling of I Spy, which is
that's what I keep saying. It's I Spy.
Keith and I are big I Spy fans, and it's got that vibe. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I have to say, like, the action scene was it got a little ridiculous. The big action set pieces got a little. But I have to say, like, this entire show, when people talk about, there's one thing about one of my viewers, a guy named Eric Gant. You know what? I'm going to find what he said. He said something that I thought was particularly apropos when it comes to what people call woke entertainment. And I'll find what he said because I thought it was just a simple phrase, but I thought for sure that let me see if I can find it.
I have a question though, Robert. So in other words, what you're saying is you've leveled up twice today, and your shirt is representation of how you've done it today.
Yes. Why? Awesome. That is correct. You would be correct.
Now, Robert, you know Fat Steven, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have streamed together.
Yeah.
And which is nice because we've met and Steve has met you, but White Keith up on the top there, I don't think he's met you yet.
Not yet.
No. White, is that your name, White Keith?
Yeah. Well, we have White Keith, and then my partner is now Black Keith. So don't confuse them because they look a lot alike.
We do.
Admit it.
You also remember the old Mad TV skits, Spy versus Spy. So we got White Keith versus Black Keith, like Spy versus Spy.
And we have, of course,
been wanting to get you on the show for quite a while. So.
Yeah, Keith and I have talked about it for over 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice of you.
But we said,
we are.
We're not big enough yet. We gotta get a little more popular.
That is not no. What's so funny about that?
He's just going to ignore us.
No, I mean,
He doesn't ignore anyone.
No, it's true because Robert, you responded, and you're going to do some James Bond reviews with us.
Yeah. That's going to
I
blow
love
Thomas
his
Gilkey's
James Bond
mind
reviews.
away.
I love that. Also, we have a Yeti in the crowd here. That down in the bottom right there. He's probably brushing out the crust in his fur. He only gets it right down in the bikini area. I'm not sure what's causing it.
They have some lotion for that.
This is our panel. You know, we have a couple of guys. I think you know Script Doctor.
of course.
He's
I love
normally
Script
on
Doctor.
our panel, but he and T-shirt both work during the day, and so they
have real
try
job.
to make it here towards the end of the show. But if the show doesn't go long enough, they miss out being on the show, and I hate that because they're two of my favorite friends to have on the show.
When they're unconscious.
Well, I think
I was just going to say, I had one of those long conversations with Script the other day, talking about how best to adapt Fantastic Four and several other characters, and how best to really do that in conjunction with, say, the X-Men, certain characters, and Peter Parker. Oh, we just went just deep into that.
No, Script is, you know, one of the things I would love to do is work on a TV show where, I mean, I'm not a WGA writer, so I couldn't do this, but if I was able to produce a TV show, there's a particular show I want to get off the ground, and there's a writer's room that I would build. Like there's people that I know that work in the TV business that I would just be like, I want you. I just call them up and be like, you're hired. And I would bring on Script Doctor as part of that team, if I was able to get something like that off the ground, because, you know, it would be so much fun, because obviously I've been very impressed with how much he knows about story and the way he talks about things. And I mean, he really knows his stuff.
At the same time, though, he's also very humble when he approaches people. He doesn't really put a judgmental factor on what you say or what you ask. He listens with an open mind, like the way he comes at scripts. And he treats both not only as people, but also as an individual property, whether you're a person or a script. And that's where he gets a lot of
Which is
respect
what
from.
makes him better than you, Stephen.
Everyone's better than me. I'm just a fat guy covered in Crisco trying to get down the aisle for the next powder of ice cream. You know, like, let's go, Gerry.
Yeah, and one of the things I hope you'll enjoy about this show is we shit on each other a lot.
It's always good to be self-deprecating.
I'm glad I'm at the top.
Please don't shit on me. I have horns.
Well, Robert, I've been meaning to ask
Welcome
you,
to our
what
German Sci-fi film. Yeah.
Would you agree that one of the keys to bringing to life, say, Challengers of the Unknown, is to imagine it like the A-Team meets Fringe in the X-Files?
Oh, I like that. As long as they understood the mythology better than Fringe and the X-Files, you know, I loved the X-Files. I loved it, but I think one of the great disappointments, the great cinematic disappointments of my life, was the first X-Files movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, they completely blew up their mythology, and one of the things that I was wondered about the X-Files was, okay, so since the end of World War II, humanity, or the cabal, has been talking to whom? Where are these extraterrestrials that are with the black oil that hire alien bounty hunters to, like, where are they? Are they on the dark side of the moon? I mean, you see this gigantic spacecraft that's buried underneath the ice in the X-Files movie, where they've got literally thousands and thousands of people encased there. Like, is there an alien embassy? Like, what was going on? Like, who hired the alien bounty hunter? Like, and where do you call somebody up and go, hey man, I need an alien bounty hunter with that shiv.
Well,
he's going to come to Earth.
Well, they had a timeshare deal with Palpatine, right? So they're waiting for Rise of Skywalker to come out so he could raise the ship out of the ice and then tweet about it on space Twitter.
And on that soundtrack for the movie, there's this Chris Carter basically just lays out the entire mythology in this like song track. And I'm just like, first of all, none of that tracks with what you've been showing us. You know, what and then of course they didn't know what to do, so they added the super soldiers, and I'm like, come on, man, where are these aliens? Who are you talking to?
Well, that's why the Predator came to Earth. You know, it's a linked universe.
and the ancient Egyptians, so bring in the Stargate. You know, because there was the pyramid in the Arctic. You know, hey, that's where we hunt aliens.
Well, they took off Atlantis. Well, think about it. Atlantis was there. They took off. They left like a map and like that little coin from the Goonies, so they could go across the universe and find Earth as long as they go. One-eyed Willie was here, and they follow the trail. And that's how.
Yeah, and Fringe kept changing its. I mean, I liked Fringe, but it kept changing its premise like every year, and then it finally. Yeah. And you know, I've been watching. I'd never seen it. I started watching Counterpoint with Elizabeth, and I'd never seen that show before. The J.K. Simmons multiple world show. It's fantastic, and I'm like, this is how to do it. There's no special effects.
Season 1 was fantastic.
Oh yeah, well I'm just in
the show derailed in season 2, and that's what hurt it.
Oh well, that's a bummer.
Well, Fringe really derailed near the end too. It started off great.
There's a new series too that I've been watching and I'm enjoying that has that same Quatermass feel to it, called Debris on Peacock.
I watched the first couple of episodes of that. Is it still good?
Is it still good?
Well, I mean,
it borrows from X-Files. But I like what they're doing. That each episode is its own standalone story.
Yeah.
With the continuity of the ongoing story arc.
I just don't know if I buy like. If you have an alien spacecraft and for whatever reason it collides or with something and the debris gets strewn all over the Earth, every piece of that alien spacecraft, and it is just debris, does amazing things. Like it affects your dreams or it makes people float. Or I'm like, why does it do all of this? Isn't it just,
hello, world-class bullshitter. Sorry.
I watch. I hope it's good because I really like the first 2 episodes. I thought they were great.
Oh, Jeff is in. Jeff is in.
That's
the
what
chat.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm
saying.
saying.
What's up, buddy? Hey, Jeff.
Sup, Jeff?
So we have a normal great chat to begin with, but every once in a while we get some big timers like Jeff to jump in.
Yeah, I like his channel.
Thank you. He's great.
Yeah, I like sarcastic asses, and Jeff's one of those. Him and Tom.
So if you guys as a group had a recommend list for series to give a chance to, and not saying Alien Resident because I know everyone's selling Alien Resident lately, but what would they be for your top 5, not including Invincible right now? Because I am looking for
that are on
stuff.
Currently.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
Superman and Lois actually. I really enjoy Superman.
Yeah, it's a good show.
It's pretty
good. A good show.
Yeah. But I'm like Robert, like you said, is it still good? I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Especially
it's that constant, with Berlanti in charge.
Yep.
He's just itching to fuck something up.
The bait and switch. Yeah.
That has just been a consistent problem with me with a lot of the Berlanti stuff. Although I will say this, I love Doom Patrol. I cannot wait until the next season starts.
As a standalone, because he put that same kind of spin with the Titans, and it doesn't work. But then he does Doom Patrol, and it's all fucking weird, and it works, and I laugh my ass off every episode.
I couldn't. Titans is bad.
We're getting some I never thought that anybody would adapt the Umbrella Academy. But I've quite enjoyed the Umbrella Academy. And it's just because it's so weird. And it's in a way I might enjoy the show more than the comic. And I have, I've got with the absolute editions of those. But we're getting a lot of really great, maybe not perfect shows, but a lot of shows that are satisfying. Like Carnival Row was based on a screenplay by Travis Beacham, who wrote Pacific Rim. And it had been around. It was unproduced. It was called A Killing on Carnival Row. And Guillermo del Toro was going to direct it, and it had been kicking around for a long time. And then they made it into a series. I didn't think it was perfect, but I enjoyed it. I felt, wow, this is a really bold attempt at something. I thought it was beautifully made. We're getting things like Walter Tevis wrote the novel Man Who Fell to Earth. He wrote The Hustler, that the movie The Hustler was based on. He wrote The Color of Money. He also wrote The Queen's Gambit. And Scott Frank adapted obviously that novel to the 7-episode series for Netflix, and he had previously done Godless for them, and he's currently doing The Sparrow, which if you've never read that book, The Sparrow is an incredible science fiction novel that has really interesting implications across the board. It's a phenomenal book if you haven't read it. So we're getting, and then there's the Foundation trilogy series that Apple's doing. I can't believe, as far as being, I call everybody imagination connoisseurs, there's so much vitriol in our pundit space on YouTube, but we are really getting some unbelievable entertainment. Like we focus on I believe that Star Trek, the hostage crisis, is now on year 12 for me, where Star Trek has been it's abhorrent what has happened to Star Trek. And I do not understand why the people in charge get to remain in charge of that show. I get it. There's contracts and all that, but I think by any metric, and God love the people that it works for, because I think that there are people, their first Star Trek is Discovery or Picard or whatever. But I think Star Trek Picard was one of the greatest bastardizations and vandalism I've ever seen done to a franchise.
Amen.
More so than The Last Jedi, whatever you want to say. I mean, I watched Picard. It is so antithetical to what Star Trek is. And I watched it, and it really was. And I'm like, I understand where Patrick Stewart wanted to go. He wanted to do something different, especially coming off of Logan and taking Charles Xavier down that road. But to me, Picard was one of the worst vandalizations of a pop culture icon I have ever seen in my life, in my half century on this planet. And I don't understand it. Like I watch this and I'm like, who thought this show or anything in this show was remotely, other than the name, remotely reminiscent of what Star Trek is supposed to be?
At least all 10 of their viewers are happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
loaded with member berries to
I mean, it wasn't even member berries, though. We reached a point where, like, most people have watched Generations enough to have a memory and kind of things. And I keep forgetting the name. I think it's Tapestry, the one where Picard is on the right.
Welcome
and
to the afterlife.
But every time I see that, I see a Picard episode where I'm reminded of it. His speech at the end of that episode always flows back in my mind. And from that point on, you see the connection between him and Q. As much as they were also enemies and challengers of the opposite sides, they were still friends on a certain point of view.
And
Q would have automatically, he would have stepped in. He would have stepped in and go, Picard, why are you going down this road? There would have been an intervention at this point or another test. He would not have become the shallow, frail, apologetic prune of a Picard pecan, doing nothing but taking the blame for things that were out of his control. I refuse to believe that Picard went down that road. I refuse to believe it.
Nothing in that show.
I freaking hate it.
All over the place.
And their obsession with AI in Discovery and Picard. You look at this and you're like, do you people, you have a rudimentary 1973 idea of what AI is. I mean, go watch a movie like Her. Her is a terrific science fiction film about, Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his operating system. And the AI in that decides, there's a whole different plane of existence you people don't know anything about, and we're going to go there. And it's like, yes, the idea that there's some AI controlling the galaxy, that we're going to kill all the people that are human beings or whatever. We're going to kill all. It's so some Cthulhu. It was so stupid. And just bad science fiction written by people that obviously never read. I think that anybody who works on Star Trek should read.
Though, Robert, admit it, that they're hiring far too many people who don't know science fiction to write science fiction.
What I don't understand is, how do you work in the science fiction, fantasy, comic book, horror genre, and these are literary based genres. So I think in order to have a rudimentary understanding of what science fiction or horror or fantasy is, you need to have read some of the canonical works of those genres.
I'm not even sure they've watched the old shows. I think they watched a trailer and it's like, okay, they're shit.
Or the top 10 BuzzFeed's top 10 Star Trek episodes.
Exactly. They gave
this was the failure of the latest iteration of Twilight Zone too. Mm-hmm. That they got these people in there. They had one sci-fi writer involved, and then they had all these people that was a stand-up comedian and just writing these really atrocious scripts.
My two favorite things just butchered in one year.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, the Twilight Zone, maybe even more so than the original Star Trek, shaped who I am. You know,
amen to that too.
As a child, I mean, I learned so much about storytelling.
Yeah,
especially from the 4 of the seasons or the half-hour episodes. Season 4 was obviously an hour episodes, but those half-an-hour episodes, 22 minutes with commercials or whatever, would introduce you to a character and a premise in the first moments of the episode, and tell you these incredibly satisfying stories. And like you pointed out, they were Charles Beaumont, Richard Matheson, and then all the other people that wrote Twilight Zone episodes, in addition to Jerome Bixby, who wrote Mirror Mirror for the original Star Trek. Right. These were novelists and short story writers. And
that was something that Serling and Roddenberry both had in common, was a passionate love for the current science fiction and sci-fi horror writers of the time.
All these guys jumped between things, like George Clayton Johnson, who wrote for Twilight Zone, wrote Kick the Can, also worked on the original Star Trek, you know, and wrote Logan's Run, co-wrote the novel, but he also co-wrote like Ocean's 11, the original. Not great, but these are these were writers that jumped in between different things. I mean, these were consummate writers. They were writing short stories, they were writing teleplays, they were writing movies, and because they were men of letters. And I feel that a lot of the writers, especially on Star Trek, are people that only ever watch television. And it really shows, especially Star Trek is so bereft of any kind of real science fiction concepts. It's all half-baked ideas they saw in the fucking Terminator. Can I swear? In like the 80s. And
we do not fucking cuss on this show.
We
God
do
damn
not
it.
use any words with the letter F or fuck or you.
It just drives me crazy, though. I'm like, you know, you should. If I was doing a science fiction show, I literally, it doesn't matter what science fiction or fantasy it was, I would tell my writing staff, I'm like, you are going to have to read these 25 books before you start writing for me, and there will be a fucking test. And I will give you these books to read before you write on my show. You need to read these books, and you need to tell me, we have to have a couple of long gin-soaked or martini-soaked lunches or dinners, and we're going to discuss these books amongst ourselves so we get on the same page, so we all know what kind of show we want to make.
Beyond that, Robert, it seems like there's no real science anymore. You know, like the original Star Treks had real scientific.
It's all fantasy. It's all ridiculous.
Just like sonar in space. All right.
How about the fact that in Discovery season 2, like these red lights, they all appeared at the same time in the Milky Way? Like, hello, how far away are these things? How far does light travel? How do you possibly know?
Robert, it's all connected back to the X-Files first movie, right? See, so they all were connected with the Goonies coin and the four lights. And I'm going to keep using that because it's hilarious.
Even the X-Files was never that bad. So,
by the way, I don't mean to be such
need to do our super chat. We have two super chats.
Yeah.
Mr. Tickle Trunk, who's a good friend of this show, gave us Canadian $10. I love that guy. He says, working and lurking, with his big old heart. And again, Mr. Tickle Trunk gave us another Canadian $5. Or that's Latino Slant, so we got three. Hey, Polly. Welcome to the show, man. And here's Mr. Tickle Trunk. We really need to send Robert 1K of Coke and prod him to talk about Star Trek. I guarantee you several days worth of gold on camera.
Did he just try to...
I would say Diet Coke. You mean Diet Coke, right?
Yeah, that's clearly what he meant. And Latino Slant Polly says, love my homie RMB.
I have to say, Polly is one of all the people I've met on YouTube, he's one of my favorite people. He is so cool. And we did, I think, the most epic stream of 2020 together, which was Polly organized the cast from Blood In, Blood Out, which is a movie I particularly love.
Oh my God, I lost my mind that night.
Dude.
I was just losing my mind watching that.
Well, if Polly and Tom, like casually, for whatever reason, I was streaming with them and I mentioned something about Blood In, Blood Out, and they had already planned this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's one of those things. One of the things that I've loved about YouTube is finding like-minded people that like the same. Like, I thought I was the only person in the world that loved the movie The Ninth Gate.
I love that movie.
I love The Ninth Gate. Well, on my channel, I came across a guy. His name's Cal. He lives in Malaysia, and he goes by the name Swag Props. And so like one day I was like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? So I Google search swag props, and he has an Etsy store. And on his Etsy store, he makes prop replicas of paper products. Like he does a beautiful map of the Misty Mountains. And he does one from The Hobbit and from Lord of the Rings. I mean, to the point where I actually have it right here. To the point where dude, this is so unbelievable. Now I have to find hang on, I gotta get the pen. I hope it's in here. So here's this thing. This is the kind of quality that he does.
Holy.
So he sent this to me.
Wait. He aged the paper and everything?
Yeah, he ages. This guy,
No way.
I've been to the Weta workshop, and this he made this. Now, this is fucking epic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is unbelievable. This work is, but this isn't what makes it.
What's the texture like, though? Does the paper feel like it's old school as well?
Oh yeah, dude. But dude, wait. If you think, just wait. You gotta. Okay, so right, this is pretty dope. Yeah.
He didn't do it. He did it.
Dude,
he did it.
Dude, check it out.
He did. He used moon runes.
Oh my god!
So
that is insane.
Is that a lemon juice he used to do it, or is that like something else?
I bet you it is.
Or it's a black light. It's a black light pen. It has to be.
Yeah, this is a black light pen.
Black light. Yeah.
But to get the ink in the paper, though, that's oh my god! I just jizzed all over myself,
dude.
Shit.
So this is just his. So I go to his site, right? This guy, Cal, and I would not have known him if it wasn't for my YouTube channel, and I don't think I would have known about his abilities unless I just punched his name into Google. So I go to his Etsy site. He makes the book, The 9 Gates of the Kingdom of Heaven, from the 9th Gate.
No,
and he does different versions of it, and I was like, holy! I on my show, I like call him out. I'm like, dude, like I can't believe. Now I had no idea because I didn't have any of his stuff. And he says, well, let me send you one, and he sells it for like $400. And I'm like, dude, I can't. He's like, no, I want you to have one. So I get this. It's not. Let's say it's over there. It is so good. Like, I don't know what I would ever do with it, but just to have it, he sends it to me in the same cloth that Johnny Depp keeps it wrapped up in, like an oil cloth to keep it safe. So he sends it to me. What he makes is perfect. And what he did, like in the first DVD of The 9th Gate, they had reproductions of all the etchings. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 different etchings because there's different kinds of books in the. He sent me an extra packet of the different versions of each etching that's in the book.
Wait, Robert, I have a question to ask, though.
Wow.
You know how you got all those comic books you're getting put and stitched together into one book, right?
Yes.
Why aren't you ask to see if you can do the cover for it?
Ooh, or a variant.
That's pretty interesting.
You would give him freeform, though. It'd be wicked.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like this packet of stuff. He just sent me this one day. This random. You know what he did? Elizabeth, I do Elizabeth views. We did Donnie Darko. We did Donnie Darko as one of our review shows. And Elizabeth said, I wonder if Swag Props will ever make Donnie Darko's book, the book of time travel that's in the. He did. After Elizabeth said that, he did. And he sent her his artist proof, the first book he made. I'm just like,
wow. Oh,
this is why YouTube and this whole pundit community is so awesome. Not just because people send me stuff,
but
there's
like
so many
at Christmas right now.
But there's so many talented people out there, and like you meet, like I don't know what, like when does somebody decide I'm going to make paper products? Like also, Swack sent me Rorschach's journal.
Oh my God, really,
dude? I mean. And he makes. I don't have this. And by the way, if he sees this video, please don't. You've already sent me so much. He does Henry Jones's Grail Diary from Indiana Jones and the Last.
Oh my God! No, I would love that.
Wait, elastic and all?
Yes. Oh no, he puts it's all perfect. And I've worked. I started my career in Hollywood working in the art department, watching people fabricate props and all this. This stuff is the best work I've ever seen.
I love when people kind of age things.
That's really cool. Hey, I hate to interrupt, but we have another super chat from somebody I wish would not do super chat.
Exactly.
Because we're trying to get you money, Rebecca. We love you. She sent us a $20 super sticker. She lost her And Robert, Stephen, you tell the story. You tell the story.
It's T-shirt introduced us to a friend of hers who was hit by.
And T-shirt has joined us. I want to point that out. That's him down at the bottom.
T-shirt.
Can you add that quickly, Gerry? Sorry about that, Robert.
Where's it at? Okay, I see it. Add the stream. Here we go.
I'm gonna control it, but I'm sorry. I had that's the only video I had saved, so I could see where it was. This is the flood in Kentucky in Bettyville back in March 2021. This is her on the boat with her friend. I don't want to play the whole 12 minutes, but her whole shop was lost, and we've been channels all across YouTube. Like, no, you said we have a vitriol community, or whatever. Like, very helpful, very understanding. They have been helping Rebecca, and that's why we're shaking our finger at her right now for that super sticker. She lost a tattoo shop under 8 feet of water, and everything was paid for but destroyed. FEMA won't help, insurance won't help.
And here's the thing that really pissed a lot of us off was that hours before the flooding came, the local officials knew it and didn't warn any of the shop owners.
None.
Yeah.
So because she wouldn't have lost everything if she had been given an hour or two. She could have got everything out of there that was important.
Mm-hmm. Bad, Rebecca. Bad.
So she's got a GoFundMe, and we've been supporting her. Can you put that in the private chat, Stephen? Because I don't have it here.
Give me 1 second. Robert, while you're here, I wanted to ask another question related to this. How are you feeling on the reception of the Dota Dragon's Blood?
From what I know, I think it's been pretty great. Has it not?
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, Ashley Miller, who's been a friend of mine for a long time, as a matter of fact, I was partly responsible for getting him hired to write Agent Cody Banks, which is the first feature that he wrote. He's one of the best creators in Hollywood that I know. And so his former partner, Zach Stentz, they wrote together. They wrote Cody Banks. They wrote Thor. They wrote X-Men First Class. He's one of the smartest, nicest people that I know in Hollywood. And it was very funny. Like, when I got involved in that at first, he's never produced animation before. And he hired a good buddy of mine, Steve Melching, who's written on almost every animated show ever. Steve and I go back to USC over 30 years ago. And he was kind of given carte blanche because Dota 2 doesn't have, there's a lot of lore, but there's not a lot of story. So they talk about all this stuff, but it's never been portrayed. So he had kind of carte blanche to do what he wanted, utilizing the game, obviously, as a jumping off point. And I was able to look at all, he had me come in and edit the animatics. And animatics are basically unfinished animation. It's the shots are all there. Like, it's like when you're editing a live action, you've got all the different pieces of coverage and you cut them all together. They do the same thing in animation, but you have to get it right, because when you actually go to animate the final thing, every frame counts. And so we started working together, but they gave me access to the Dropbox. So I was able to look at scripts and how things were developed, and notes and design work, and how everybody was working together. And it was really not only interesting, but very inspiring, because there was so much thought put behind everything that was going on. And it was a great experience, and I really liked doing it, and I learned a lot. I was very impressed. And it was funny because I would get to see these animatics, the stuff would come in early on, and I didn't want to know. Like, I wouldn't read the scripts beforehand, because I'd want to watch these things that I was working on and kind of get the story from these the beginnings of it all. And I loved it. And I'm like, God, man, I hope we can, because what they actually obviously planned, unlike some people, planned out where he was going to go with the show. And I'm like, I hope there's a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth season, because they really have each season what they want to do plotted out. And awesome. I was really excited that people liked it. And it was, at one point, I think the second week it was out, it was the number 7 show on all of Netflix around the world.
Congrats.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
freaking awesome.
And then we just got renewed this week for book 2. So I'm very excited, but mostly for the creative team and Ashley.
You sound very proud.
You just have an entire, everybody that contributes and is a fan of your channel. You have this just built up, all of these fans who are just so creative and so interactive and fun. You read incredible letters and
I mean, it's humbling in the sense that I didn't know, like Elizabeth encouraged me. She bought me this mic, and then it was the late great John Schnepp on when we did Collider Heroes together. He said, you should start your own channel because you've got this positivity thing, and you like all these different kinds of things. And I'm like, I don't know what I would do. Like, and I started, and then Elizabeth got me this microphone for Christmas of 2018, and I just started doing the show. And what has been really interesting is the community that has risen up around the show. Like I tell people, like, I'm just the host of the party.
No,
I just open the door, and it's everybody. It's all the people that come to your party that make it great. And I'm just like, here's the party. So come here and join up and let's have a good time.
Right.
And I'm just humbled, and I've been running this film festival, and it's very late. It's about 4 months late, but we're going to start a short story competition. I've been getting short stories, but it's just all been pushed back because of work and stuff like that. But I've been blown away by the creativity and the contributions of people. Like I didn't know what happened if I always loved reading letters in the back of comic books when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really do that anymore, letters of comment. But I thought, well, people send me letters. Here's a website. And as you know, the letters are, sometimes I get letters. I literally read a letter that made me cry because I don't live on camera. And I was like, my God, man, the people it's amazing that people write to me, but it's all them. I've just provided a place. Hey, here's the party.
I got to interject, Robert. I got to interject, and I got to disagree a little bit. You say you're just the host that invites people over, but if you're inviting people over, you're providing the environment for imagination, you're providing the drinks, the hors d'oeuvres, even the bathroom, like for the shitty jokes. But the host provides the environment for your community to actually spread and enjoy and share their imagination.
Well, that's very nice.
It is a two-way street. That's the way of having a conversation. You can talk to a wall, but they'll never talk back to you. Same way you have to have a house.
And I want to address something you said earlier. Oh, wait. Hold on. We have my buddy, Tom, is here from Midnight's Edge.
Oh.
What is up, Tom?
I just wanted to hop in and say hello to everybody.
Hey, Tom.
Hey,
Tom ruined my morning, but then I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I feel better now.
He owes me $500.
I didn't mean to ruin your morning, but...
Dude, I read that, and I was like, oh.
I know, man.
I don't know how true that is, though, because that website's a little sketchy.
Well, we'll have to get into it sometime.
Yeah.
But I wanted to point out something you said earlier about Polly. And I want to point out there are two nice guys in our group of people, all of us, that I consider to be the single most polite, constantly polite people I've ever met. And that's Polly. And the other one is Culture Casino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You haven't seen Culture on a Mario Kart stream yet, have you?
I have not. I have not.
Pick on him for a little bit, and you won't get that.
I have a clip of Culture swearing if you want it.
Now, my wife, this is my wife, Deanna. She says Keith is one. You are wrong, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Keith has a filthy mouth like a sailor.
What?
He learned it from you, Gary.
He was talking about me, Gary.
He learned it from you.
Why are these?
I'm sorry, Black Keith. Black Keith. And by the way, we talked about diversity too, Robert. And I want to point out that part of the reason why we love doing our show is not just the racial diversity, but the political diversity. Because I'm your typical white conservative, and Black Keith is your typical Democrat, and we never fucking argue. We never argue, not once.
Why,
we don't agree, but we just we love each other. It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm the token Hispanic.
But I agree. I mean, there's no reason why people that are on that have different ideologies can't be friends. I mean, my whole thing is our baseline is if we're all geeks or nerds, whatever you want to call us. If you're all then there's your baseline. I call everybody an imagination connoisseur, and if you like these things, then there is the baseline is that we're fans, and we should always be able to talk to one another from that perspective. And, we live in a huge country. America is a giant, very diverse in terms of not just people, but in terms of region. if you live, and people talk about, well, the coastal elites, in the big cities, as opposed to people that live in rural areas, we all have different concerns. Our daily lives are made up of very different things. If you live in a city, a very bustling city, the things that are important to you on a daily basis are different than someone that's living in a rural environment. And yet we're all Americans. Theoretically, we all believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and that's where I think in America we've forgotten that we're all Americans first and foremost, and let's talk to one another from that. Well, Canadian,
yeah,
sorry,
North Americans,
American light,
America's hat.
But come on, man! I did bring up a clip for Robert. I think we all can enjoy this to break the canon for you, Gerry. But he is right there. He's dropping facts like there's no tomorrow.
That's where I get it from. It's R&B, right? He is the man when it comes to that. He drops so many facts.
Is Keith blushing?
I'm serious. Yeah, he can blush. No. I spotted on him a lot, especially when I say fucked up things to him in person. And half of the reason why I do this show, Robert, if not even 75%, is just to fuck with Keith, Black Keith, on the show, because we're best friends in real life. And we would do this in real life. We did comic conventions because I'm a comic book artist, and I get invited to do conventions, and that's how we met. And then I found out that, he's one of those people that if you say something fucked up to him, they lose their mind. And just so I spent the next decade just fucking with him. And then we decided, let's take it on the road and do a show. And seriously, they've watched him disappear. He'll just disappear off camera, laughing. But he is you if you
were black.
Took a long time to get to your point.
So, are we expecting an like a midnight special? We can call it Pop Culture Presents Fucking with Keith.
You can tell how much he loves it by how
we're
far
friends.
He's falling in his seat.
Some of the best friends I've made since the Army are on the fucking YouTube and Twitter.
Why, thank you, Gerry.
Well, that's
Fuck
been
you.
one of the benefits.
Fuck you, T-shirt. You're lucky you get to hang on to my coattails, bitch.
Oh, you sweet man. Listen to you talking that way.
Now,
my God.
T-shirt and I killed a group one night because there's nothing that will kill a conversation with a bunch of geeks than going into actual military or global history.
Yeah.
And he and I went off because we're both historians. So we started talking about like the Middle Ages, and then everybody just started like fading into the bushes and leaving the chat. It was like, okay.
I was enjoying it.
But you'd think that would be, history and those kind of things, because a lot of that is the jumping off point for a lot of our pop culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to have a good knowledge if you want to be a writer too.
Actually,
Kurtzman.
I think it's great that you point that out, Robert. It's kind of funny you say that because for college, I actually did write a 25-page paper on the history of Star Trek for my historiography class. And the thing is, at first, my professor was like, "No, you can't do this. I don't want to read this. This is, I don't want to read some big ass fan piece about Star Trek." So I took the time to write down all the salient points about Star Trek. Interracial kiss. Commentary on the Vietnam War. What Star Trek means to people culturally, how friendships have developed, how societies and communities have developed around Star Trek, what conventions actually mean to them, the psychology of Star Trek, the Jewish roots with Mr. Spock, all these things. And all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, this is a great paper. No, we'll take this."
The other 20 pages were all about how he was Hispanic.
Yeah, that was totally it.
Well, I think
Stephen wishes he was Hispanic.
Though, one of the things I've loved about, I hate to say it, I've spent most of lockdown, most of the last year working on stuff, which has been great because I barely leave this room. But the meeting people and starting to stream with different people, that's how I met Polly. And because of Tom and Midnight's Edge and Rob and Andre and Mecha Random and all, it's been great meeting people and being on streams and because you realize, why do people go to conventions? Is to have a community. And I used to be on a lot of like chat boards and on AOL in the mid 90s, like Star Trek chat boards that Ron Moore would like jump into, and argue about warp drive and stuff like that. But now we can do it live on camera, and you can see each other and you can share the enthusiasm. And it's been, I think we're lucky to be in this YouTube space and be able to meet people and interact. And now, you can have like this blood in, blood out reunion. We had many of the cast. I was able to get Taylor Hackford, the director, who I didn't know.
Who is one of my favorite directors.
Well, it's funny. You go back and you look at his filmography. He's one of the great populist directors. I mean, everything from Officer and a Gentleman to all the way up to Devil's Advocate. If you look at his career, he's done all of his movies are really entertaining, and he doesn't get listed as in the pantheon of maybe great that everyone talks about, but he really is, over the last 40 years, one of the great directors. And I mean, he directed Dolores Claiborne, which is a Stephen King adaptation that nobody talks about. That's fucking great.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
But Against All Odds is in my opinion, one of the best remakes. Yeah. In fact, it's better than the original film Out of the Past with Mitchell.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I gotta say this. I do bring up Dolores Claiborne, in fact, because I brought it up as one of the examples.
Yeah, you never shut up about it, Tom.
Better than the movie. That's right. I talk about it constantly.
It's always Ninja Turtles and Dolores Claiborne. That's all it is.
I brought it up though in the same breath as Jaws, though, and Jurassic Park as examples of movies that are better than the book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Clockwork Orange is better than the book too.
Another one.
Psycho is better than the book.
And that's not an insult to Block at all. No, it's just I forget who adapted that. Was that Matheson? Who adapted that for the movie?
That's a good question.
Because I know that Matheson and Block had a relationship of adapting each other's work.
Block did Psycho. Robert Block did Psycho.
Okay.
You're all psychos.
What?
Yeah, I was looking that up.
Gary,
screenwriter.
Gary,
oh my god, I can see
Gary, the clip.
Blanking on the name. It's
Oh, you want me to play the clip? Okay.
Yes,
Here we go. We finally have a silent
Joseph
moment.
Stefano.
Oh, Stefano. That's
Stefano
right.
at Mr. like Outer Limits, right? Joseph
right.
Outer Limits.
Right. It was Stefano.
Here's your shattering casino.
Cecil? No fucking way. Anyway, he's still one of my best friends in the whole world, and probably one of the most genuine human beings, and funniest that I know is Wes Moody. So thank you all for finding your way over here. If you're not already subscribed, if you are subscribed, you got a unique opportunity to enjoy a whole lot of people just having a really good time. So thank you for being here. You guys make everything happen. If you're not subscribed to the wonderful people on this, shut the fuck up, dickhead.
For 2 minutes, everyone loses it.
I love that break.
Seriously, Wes?
Shut the fuck up.
I've never seen him cuss before. That is so funny. That is so funny. He's always so polite, and he always like when I say something, because I've been on with him, and I'll say one of my typical Gerry things, and he'll just sort of get that that heavy sigh of like.
It's funny. You keep making me big, and I keep looking back, and I'm like, why is my Amazing Spider-Man 300?
Don't do this.
With spaghetti webbing.
I was going to get it slabbed, and I just keep forgetting it's there.
Stop this. Stop. That's not fair. Stop. I have the 500 signed by the Romitas and Campbell and someone else.
That's pretty much pristine. That's as mint as it gets.
Adopt me. Please, Robert, just adopt me. Just adopt me now. I'll polish all your toys. That was
I'm gonna slab it. I'm gonna slab that. It's funny. I hate to say this, but I can't stand my comic book collection. I want it all gone.
Same
I've
here.
been buying everything in hardcover, which I love. People even complain. Can I just say one of my big pet peeves is people who bitch and moan about the fact that Swamp Thing was recolored for the Absolute editions. Can I just say, people, you're wrong. It looks great.
Yeah.
I love the Absolute Swamp Things, and they look fantastic. So I don't know what everyone's bitching about. Newsprint looks different than glossy paper, and most of the time I don't like how things look on the new
I said that
paper.
a couple weeks ago on a stream, that when they take that old 4-color process that was meant for pulpy newsprint and they put it on this beautiful paper, it's you need sunglasses almost.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I want to point this out. I had this. I bought it when I was 8 years old. And I kept it for years, and I shared it with Bernie Wrightson himself.
Look at that cover, man.
I got to hang out with him. Yeah, and I love the fact that the perspective is all fucked up on it. But I shared this with him, and a close artist friend of mine took it over to him while I was working my artist table, and he had him sign it for me. And then, of course, I got to hang out with him again at another con, and he got one of my books. And he actually bought it. I'm like, you don't have to buy it. And he's like, no, I want to, because he's that kind of guy. But and then some shitheel stole the comic, signed to me.
You make me. I don't
drugs.
Oh man, I want to go buy that. Somebody's got to have that slab. What a great cover that is.
And it is. And what makes me mad is he's not alive anymore to get him to sign it again.
Steven has quite the collection there, by the way.
Yes, that's what he's showing off. God, he's so.
I gotta show my nerd penis. I gotta get it out there when I think it's disappointing everywhere else.
Zach7 has given us a Canadian $5, which is like Monopoly money, but we love it anyway. This is awesome. Zach says, keep this going until Kaylee's interview on Sunday.
When are they going to put non-fungible tokens into the super chat?
Ooh.
Yeah. You know what? I've been like, I've watched videos about NFTs. I've read articles about NFTs. I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't either.
I still don't get it. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, Kevin Smith's going to make his latest movie in NFT. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Wait, are you? Oh, sorry.
I don't understand it either. It's like when you say Monopoly money, Gary, that's the first thing I go to because it's kind of like that to me. I don't know.
I'm waiting for somebody to make an NFT of an actual like $100 bill.
I thought NFT stood for not fucking terrible.
Did you just call Black Keith and I tokens? Are we not your tokens?
I really never know how to respond to that, Robert. Every time I hear that joke from one of these fuckers, I'm like, Keith laughs. I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that.
I have to because I don't know if my parents are watching. So.
Oh, and I guarantee you they're watching. So, hello, Moncriefs. Oh, y'all.
We're live and in person from Token Central.
She's like, I know she probably says to Keith, why are you friends with that white boy? I don't understand it.
Haven't you ever just backhanded him just once when he won't looking?
I love Keith.
Oh, he's live from the shower curtain right now.
And Robert's like, what the fuck is going on?
No, it's all good. I'm watching and learning.
She's probably gonna be like, "Are you hanging out with that Hispanic boy? And those people will steal your shoes and shit."
I have a twin brother who also will occasionally watch, and it has been interesting to listen to his interpretation of what this show is like. You know, based on
admit who is it again that he likes most on the show?
That was my youngest brother. My youngest brother.
Who is it?
Me.
Who was it?
Me.
Me.
Who was it? Keith? No. I want to hear from Keith. Who was it?
He really, really admires that Gerry guy.
What? He has no taste.
What Nerdrotic?
Yeah, Gerry from Nerdrotic. The other Gerry.
The other Gerry.
You mean Gerry?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I've got a whole pocket to go fuck yourself right now.
On that note, I think I'm going to check out because I need a little nap before tonight. But I just wanted to hop in and say hi to everybody. And
thanks for coming by, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
And Shaw,
I take those.
Tom owes me $500.
Well, no, I spent it on this major award.
What do you mean that leg lamp?
And it's for
leg lamp.
And it's Fred Geely.
Wow,
that is really nice, man.
That's I think the second appearance of Carnage or the first.
That's the first one.
It says part 1.
I found that at the last con before everything went to crap.
You know what?
I bought it for $20. Oh, and Keith, you're gonna like it.
Thanks for coming, Tom. I appreciate it, man.
No problem,
man. And I know I take old man naps too in the afternoon. So
because I stayed up late watching Mortal Kombat, that's why.
I watched it. I didn't.
I haven't watched it. I'm saving it for this weekend.
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
It's because you're up 3 times a night.
Spoilers: Chun-Li's not in it.
I am up 3 times a night.
Wait. Hubert is in it. Hubert's in it
somewhere, but neither is Godzilla or Freddy. So I guess
that's
not as Brie Larson. So that's kind of a saving factor right there.
Well, with Freddy, you got to wait 5 nights at least for something to happen. So.
That's not true. He got fingered last night.
Oh.
Come on, Freddy got fingered. No one knows the movie.
Did anybody see the Nicolas Cage ripoff film about five? I watched it and enjoyed the shit out of that movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It is very fun.
It is fun.
He says not one fucking line in that movie.
No,
It's
not
just
one.
All physical.
Probably cheaper.
Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland. That movie tripped me out. I'm like, this is so bad, but I can't stop watching. I'm enjoying it.
Well, if he opened his
Did
mouth,
you watch
he'd
it,
have to pay
Robert?
him more.
Which one? Mortal Kombat?
No, the Nicolas Cage. What was it called? Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah,
I have not.
I highly recommend it if you are a Nick Cage fan at all.
I am.
He doesn't say one line in the entire film. It is all physical, and it's so much violence and gore that's ridiculous, over the top puppet violence that I was dying watching the film, and
I'm in.
You're gonna want that T-shirt.
I got a copy just because I loved it. I loved it so much. I got a copy. So
it's very self-aware of its own cheesiness. It doesn't go too hard one way or the other. It's found a very good sweet spot in there,
which
so
is what you have to do with Nick Cage. You have to do that.
Yeah,
I want to see him dressed as Superman in that one suit, but then redoing Ghost Rider. I want to see how great that would look.
My wife says she still needs to watch it.
More of an Earth.
I watched it while she was asleep because she's not a big horror fan. It really gets to her. So I tend to watch horror films, but that is not a horror film at all.
Oh, you should watch them.
So silly.
Watch the Amazon series Them.
All right, kids, I'm going to check out. So take care and enjoy Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, as he is a wealth of knowledge.
I love you,
All right, Tom. Take care. Love you, brother.
Good to see you or hear
See
you.
you, Tom.
Bye,
I'm
Tom.
sure I'll see you again soon.
Bye, Tom.
Can't wait to see you in drag, Tom.
You know, when I tell him I love him, I make it weird. You know, it's just like
You do.
Like it's a weird thing.
You do.
You sound like
'cause-
you're halfway
Totally.
unzipping his pants when it
I
happens.
know. I'm sorry. He starts singing, I would look good on you, and I'm just like, oh, gosh, Tom, you sweet guy.
Yeah,
That's
it's
because
like
you keep whispering it from the bushes.
I think one of my favorite things I got him to do recently was for Fanzine. They were doing that 80s night, and I talked Tom into redoing the song Ladies Night to 80s Night. And it's so bad, it's great.
Is that what he made the video for?
Well, Greg made that video. Tom just did the song, the remix. And I asked him, I said, dude, you got to do this. And I wanted to use it for our 80s stuff, but I'm like, nah, I just said, you have it, Greg. We have our own 80s thing that we do, Keith and I. And Tom actually did 1984 with us. 2 hours. And Mad Mardigan edited it down to an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that should be airing next week.
I wonder if Mad Mardigan's going to be in the Willow TV series.
In a wheelchair, because they have to include wheelchairs. So everywhere
Everyone's like, quiet.
My terror with this is that he can't talk. And
yeah,
the actors that they've had dubbed for him are just awful. They don't sound anything like Val Kilmer. And it's like bad Muppet voices,
I hope they. I mean, he's supposed to be in Top Gun Maverick, and I don't know if
and I'm
he is.
supposing he's going to be a disabled veteran in it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's so sad, he with his cancer, and I'm a huge fan. Like, Real Genius is one of my two favorite teen comedies of the '80s are Risky Business and Real Genius.
Yep.
Actually, Top Secret and Risky Business are two. I mean, Real Genius are two of my favorite films of the '80s.
Yeah,
and I steal so many lines from them. And just
it's so weird to me that Risky Business is like forgotten. It's such an adult. First of all, it's a beautifully directed movie, and it's I know it's '83, but it's. I mean, talk about a movie that's decidedly not woke. Risky Business. Some teenagers open a whorehouse in one and literally service the population of their rich enclave in Chicago. I mean, it's such a great film, and also one of the greatest uses of both Muddy Waters and Prince in any movie. They've got Manish Boy and DMSR off 1999, which I know people are going, what? But trust me, great uses of source cues in that movie. It has a great soundtrack, Tangerine Dream score, Manish Boy, and DMSR. I think that's the only movie that ever did use DMSR, which is on side 2 of 1999, if you have the vinyl, it's Let's Pretend We're Married and DMSR. Now you're all going, what? Just take my word for it. As a Prince fan.
Robert, have you had a chance to watch Mortal Kombat yet by chance?
I have not. I have to say that, the first Mortal Kombat was whatever. And the second Mortal Kombat was unwatchable to me.
What second Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, right.
Or whatever it's called.
That's like saying the Picard reel. That's not
And I want to see this because it looks like it knows what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't seen it yet, and people seem to like it. So
if you take like the way you like your Hot Toys and like the costumes, like we were talking about Prince earlier, if you enjoy costume and set design and the way the fight scenes are kind of done, you'll have fun with it if you go with it with just a bag of popcorn. That's what
I love the first 7 minutes that they dropped online.
Yeah. The only thing I disliked was the dance mix soundtrack on that fight scene. It felt like that needed to be something a little more traditional.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. You asked about Dota. Dota has a very untraditional soundtrack. And Dino, the composer, when Ashley said, I want to go with like Tangerine Dream or early, he brought up Lady Hawk, and I was like, I don't know about that. But even though I do like the Alan Parsons Project soundtrack for Lady Hawk, but it's not traditional. But once I heard the music, I think it can be done well. But Mortal Kombat does have that precedent soundtrack for the first movie.
I love that first soundtrack movie.
It's pretty nifty.
You had KMFDM, you had Typo Negative, you had Tracy Lords doing instrumentals, you had Gravity Kills, you even had Fear Factor, you had Utah Saints.
What about Juno React?
Your shit. I love that.
Juno React. Yeah, they had everything. And because of that one album, I got into psytrance, I got into metal, I got into the dark, I got into every type of genre from one album.
Juno Reactor. I'm a huge Juno Reactor fan, and that's the one thing that I've never been able to. I was working on this film called The Hills Run Red back in the late aughts in 2008, and we were in Bulgaria, and Juno Reactor was playing in Kiev, in Ukraine.
Bastard.
No, I was gonna go. I was like this close to jumping on a plane to go see them because I could go. It's right across the bay, basically, right across the sea, and I didn't. And it's one of the great. I don't have many regrets in my life, but that. Not going to see Juno Reactor bummed me out. I love they were in, for those of you who don't know, they work with Don Davis on the Matrix movies.
Yeah.
So like they scored like Mona Lisa Overdrive, which is the music that plays over the car chase sequence in Matrix Reloaded, is Juno Reactor. And all their music, they're Goa Trance. They call them
Goa Psytrance. Yep.
Yeah,
they had Psytrance parties back in when I was
my guy, I hope they come back. That's my big thing about Matrix 4. I'm like, is Juno Reactor going to contribute to the score? Are they still, working? I don't know.
You can find a lot of their live concerts on YouTube. And just have
that
a fun
Tokyo concert.
The 2002.
Yeah. Did you just say Infected Mushroom?
I love Infected Mushroom. I've seen them live a couple times. The Symphonatics is my favorite song, but someone remixed it like a decade later, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Because when they do that one rhythm, the melodic rhythm in Symphonatic, I'm just like, I can do anything. I can ride, I can cry in a corner, and still feel like I'm getting a rush in my heart. It was.
I was in Israel in 2005, and the people that brought me there, they're like, "Is there anything you would like from Israel?" I'm like, "Yes." What is the latest Infected Mushroom CD? Is it out? And so they got it for me. It was a double album. And what was very funny, this is one of the things I love Israel, by the way. Israel, Tel Aviv is one of the world's great cities. But so when I go to the airport going home, this is amazing. So you go to the airport, right? And like I get off, and there's like this really hot chick. She's like, "Hi, how are you? How did you enjoy your stay in Israel?" I'm like, "Yes, it was great." "Well, did you get anything while you were here?" And I'm like, "Well, I got a 3D book about the sites of Israel, and I also got this Infected Mushroom CD." She goes, "Oh, great. What brought you here?" And I go, "Oh, I was here for a film festival." And I'm talking to this girl thinking must be doing really great with her or whatever. And then of course she goes, "Well, right this way, sir." And then I go to the place where I have to put my luggage down.
Yeah.
I put my luggage down. The guy comes over and goes, "So, good to see you. Listen, could you show me the book that you got and that Infected Mushroom CD?" And I'm like, I've never spoken to this man before, and he knows I have an Infected Mushroom CD and a book. And I'm like, why? Yes. He goes, great. Just show me your bags. And I do. And I'm going through everything I own. I'm like, oh, here's the CD. And he takes the CD, opens it and looks at it. And he goes, Infected Mushroom is an Israeli band, is it not? I'm like, yes, it is. And I'm like, and this book, he's looking at it. I'm totally being profiled, but I'm loving every minute of it. Cause I'm like, I had this. I loved being in Tel Aviv. Where did you stay? And I stayed at this place, and I went to this, and it was the Tokyo Cinematheque had this film festival, and I was here with Roger Nygaard, the director of Trekkies, and I showed my movie, and I'm just telling this guy because I'm like not realizing what's going on. I just think they're the most. This airport is the best airport I've ever been in before, But no, I mean this is the kind of security, and it was great. But that was my Infected Mushroom CD story. I
put an airport in completely populated by nerds. No, just really good security people.
Really good.
The private chat, right there, Robert. The private chat. That's the remix. If you love Symphoniatic, like especially their older stuff, you will love that later on. Give it a listen. Asterix and him, and them. Did a very amazing job.
Yeah, I have a rule. I don't listen to anything that has the word infected in it.
Is that why your doctor's still calling?
I worked for 20 years in the medical field, so.
But not a good place to be then in 2020 for you, was it?
No. I'm once my art career took off, I'm like, fuck that shit, and I left. I let all my certifications drop. I'm like, fuck, I will never go back to that.
Did you ever get into Hypertracks by chance as well?
I didn't.
Oh, they did a wicked cover of "Send Me an Angel."
I would listen to that.
Yeah, I'm a dork with music.
Yeah, no, I love electronic music. I've always since I was a kid, it was Tamida, and it was Tangerine Dream, and of course Walter, Wendy, Carlos, and Vangelis, and it was all stuff that came out of movies. But then I started listening to. In the early 80s, I remember a thing that changed my life was I would go to Tower Records and flip through the import section, and I found New Order's 12-inch of Blue Monday that looked like a giant floppy disk. I'd never heard New Order before, and it was concurrent with their album Power, Corruption, and Lies, but it wasn't on Power, Corruption, and Lies.
Yeah.
So I took the 12-inch home, and I literally hearing that, and I put that on. It changed my life.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my.
Well, it was because in 1982, I became like a diehard Blade Runner fan, and it had huge impact on me. So much that I founded the Blade Runner fan club, BladeZone.com, #1 Blade Runner site in the world.
Wow.
And I don't manage it anymore. It's Gary Willoughby does it now, but still, I'm mentioned in Future Noir by Paul Salmon. I'm close friends with Paul. I know a lot of the cast and crew, and sadly, two of the guys I was closest to died. I'm like, Brian, James, and Morgan Paul.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I'm having a swim here.
I wanted to point out that the music in that was my first exposure to that in the Snake Pit scene with the dance mix stuff they were doing there, and I was just like, oh my god, what is this exotic music?
And also they used it wasn't just original stuff. I mean, Memories of Green was from another Vangelis
from another album. That's right.
So I got to ask you, I contributed an essay to a book called The Cyberpunk Nexus that came out in 2018 that which I was very proud of. But I got to ask you, since you brought it up, I might have to duck if I ask you this question, but is Deckard a replicant?
Oh my God, this is what got Doomcock and I got into an argument. Okay,
he's wrong, by the way.
Oh, he's completely fucking wrrong. I said, look, man, I tried to explain to him, and he just dismissed everything I said. Keith sat there just quietly like, I'm on Doomcock. I'm on Doomcock. And I'm just sitting there, and I just finally said, I'm gonna stop debating with you because you're not listening to me. I'm saying things to you that have actual bearing and weight, and you're treating them like they're feathers and just dusting them away. And you can't. People who know anything about writing, story, and structure know that you cannot influence the meaning of something visually that's not in the script. If it's not in the script, it's not in the fucking movie. Hampton Fancher stepped up and said, it's not in my script. He was not a replicant.
Well, the story makes no sense if he is.
it absolutely loses any cohesiveness as a story.
And by the way, Ridley Scott's retconning the fact that I have to, you know, it's all.
Now I'm good friends with Charlie Deslarica, his producer. Ridley knows who I am. Ridley knows who I am, and but I've never wanted to get to know him because I'm very critical of Ridley. That even though I'm a fan of his films, the brother that was the actual director killed himself. Ridley is a great cinematographer, and his only really good movies are films that started out with a really strong script. The films where he doesn't have a great script always end up wonky. There's always something goofy about it, you know, and Prometheus is the prime example of that.
Oh, God.
Well, if you watch Charlie's documentary on the Prometheus special edition, he did about a 4.5-hour documentary on the making of Prometheus, and you watch it go off the rails in that documentary. Yep. You know, once John Spates, they brought in Damon Lindelof, you know, and you watch the whole process go. I mean, I think fundamentally, the idea of one of the great things, I think one of the great genre movies, one of the great science fiction horror films ever made is the original Alien. I mean, it
established a system of rules.
It's a
simple
perfect
rule
movie.
is no matter how well you do your job, you still might die. That was what was horrifying about that film.
But also the unknowability. You know, the universe is a cosmic void that is because of the distances involved. Humanity, we will never, ever understand the universe. We just never will. And the Alien, it was so aptly titled, you know, finding that derelict spacecraft on the surface of LV-426 and seeing the space jockey and seeing the thousands of alien eggs and finding out what was in those eggs. We should never know what they were, why they were there. We should never know anything about. And that was the whole mystery, is that there are some cosmic riddles, such as how the universe is even here, we will never find out. And when you watch Prometheus and then Alien Covenant, it turns out they weren't. Are you telling me that a paranoid android from Earth or whatever, like, you just demystified the whole thing, and you ruin one of the great works of genre cinema in Alien.
Right.
And I don't understand. Like, I was watching this going, I get the engineer thing. Maybe, you know, Chariots of the Gods, Eric Von Donigan and all that, but why? Why to explain it is to undermine the very foundations of the whole endeavor. It's no longer an alien anymore. It's the product of, you know, whatever. And explaining it away was such a big mistake. And by the time you get to Alien Covenant,
it's this whole deconstruction thing that Ridley likes to do, and I'm like, stop it, Ridley. It's you know, I'm reminded of Bob Newhart on SNL when he plays the therapist that keeps telling people, if something bothers you, then stop doing it. Stop, just don't do it anymore. Stop.
I had a question,
and that's how I feel with Ridley. Stop making sequels to your films because you really do not seem to understand what you made.
I had a question. He has a built-in audience. It's a quick cash grab. I mean,
I had a quick relation and question with the previous comment. Robert,
Me too.
Have you played any games at all? Like when it comes to the Alien games, have you looked at or ever played Isolation?
Yeah.
Good question.
Do you find that a spiritual successor? If you don't, in a way that it was very well delivered.
I think first of all, that was a scary game to play.
It was.
Yeah,
so
it was.
You know,
it's free on Epic right now.
It treats. You know, there's a couple of Dark Horse comics that I thought were pretty great.
Yeah.
But you know, it really depends, like, what you're doing with the idea. See, to me, the first Alien is obviously a haunted house in space, but it's an existential. You know, again, it has that Cthulhu-like Lovecraft, the old ones, the great beyond. You're never going to know. The unknowability of the cosmos is going to come and kill you. That was sort of it wasn't really the point of the movie. The movie is really just a beautifully made monster coming after you and killing you. There's not a lot of depth there, but it is a perfect movie because it knows what it's supposed to be, and it does a very effective job of telling that story. And I think the impulse to tell more stories with the aliens are interesting, but like Isolation is all those alien stories are basically a retelling of the first movie in a way. These creatures are here, they're going to come get you. And whenever they want to expand the mythology, I don't think it ever has worked. I mean, other than in Aliens, because they don't change anything. It's just one alien was bad, but a lot of aliens is worse, you know, and it doesn't go into their reason for being. They're a force of nature. The alien is in a way, it's a godlike. You might as well say God delivered that alien creature somehow. Yeah. It was a perfect organism, like Ash says in the first movie. That's all you need to know. And if they are around you, then it's a problem. But whenever they try and change the nature, like, well, predators are hunting aliens in a pyramid in the ice.
In the original cut, they had the engineers basically walking as Jesus. That they end up cutting that because they're like, okay, this is too on the nose,
right?
Yeah, because you know he when he asks him why do you want to kill humanity, and he says because we sent an emissary like 3,000 years ago or some shit, and it's like, oh, he's referencing Jesus. And then they took it out.
Yeah, it's such a weird. Like I get it, that idea, the ancient astronauts, you know, it's been
because I'm totally into that too, Robert. I'm totally into that.
Which is I mean, but you know what Gene Roddenberry says? He's like, look, ancient astronauts did not build the pyramids. Humanity built the pyramids because we're awesome.
I thought it was Pluto Nash.
No.
No.
Get the fuck out of here.
I think you're the only person that watched that on this panel.
No, I haven't watched it either, but I know I remember the commercials. That's what I bring it up, because everyone does the same head shake and face of disgust, like they just had really bad Brussels sprouts. They're just like they're moving in their chair. Just hold
on, guys. Something big just happened in our chat.
Yep.
What happened?
That is our good friend Mikey Sutton from Geekosity Magazine. Very good friend of Keith's and mine. And have you had the chance to meet him yet?
I've never met him, but I read his stuff every day.
He is the single most accurate scooper, and that's because he's got over 35 years in the industry, both in the studio system as well as in the publishing. He worked for one of my favorite magazines, Cinescape magazine, and I love Mikey. In fact,
I read his stuff all the time.
Every day. He helped to launch us beyond where we were. He was really
because we were just these two guys doing a local regional show, and then he's like calls us Lethal Weapon, which was funny. And I always what was my response to that, Keith?
Me, Keith, or him?
I'm Murtaugh. He's Riggs.
And White Keith is Pesci.
Yeah, White Keith is Pesci.
Robert,
don't ever use the drive-through. They'll always fuck you.
They fuck you.
I think T-shirt has a question.
Whatever you want, Leo gets.
Sorry, but like
Leo gets. Okay, pulling it all the way back to Tangerine Dream because that's how far ahead of the topic we got. But yes, every time you say Tangerine Dream, I only think of two films, and they're my favorites, or two of my favorites: is Sorcerer with Roy Scheider and The Keep with Scott Glenn.
Oh, you know they're releasing 1,250 versions. 1,250 copies of the Keep soundtrack officially on vinyl, and only in the UK.
Oh, of course.
And I can't believe it because I have various iterations. But you can't talk about Tangerine Dream without mentioning what I think is their greatest score, which is from Michael Mann's Thief.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
I love that film.
And by the way, that
do you remember how shitty that got treated? The soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that movie got panned. Every critic was the soundtrack was overbearing and loud and obnoxious.
That movie, I took my grandfather. Well, actually, my grandfather took me. My grandparents used to live in Palm Springs, and it was the first time I went to visit them. And my grandfather was like, "Well, we should go see a movie." And my grandmother, and my sister went to see Tess with Nastasia Kinski, and my grandfather and I went and saw Thief. And the first 9 minutes of Thief, there's a piece of music called Diamond Diary where they rip off they break into a safe. James Caan and Jim Belushi break into a safe, and there's no dialogue aside from the chatter on the radio, and it's all it has is Tangerine Dream's pounding piece of music. And I remember sitting in the theater, I was like mesmerized I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. You could feel the authenticity dripping off the screen. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And the music is what made it. I mean, I'd never seen somebody, it predated Miami Vice by 4 years. And I love it. I mean, Sorcerer, the theme to Sorcerer, which was also used as the music in the trailer.
Another obscure film nobody fucking knows, but what a great movie.
Oh my God, which was a remake of Henri Clouzot's Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear, yes.
But Sorcerer is great.
Yes.
You know, he recently re-released a new version of that. That film,
got it.
Sorcerer is William Friedkin, of course. It was his follow-up to The Exorcist, and no one went and saw it because it opened right after Star Wars did. Or Star Wars, it opened first, and then Star Wars came out, or it opened in the wake of Star Wars, so nobody went and saw it. Oh, that movie's so good. But that Tangerine, that theme, the theme to Sorcerer is one of the great, and they use it. If you go back and you watch, if you like the movie The Warriors, go watch the trailer, not the video game, but the trailer for the movie, and they use the Sorcerer theme in that trailer. It's like great.
Yeah, now, you know that Tangerine Dream wasn't the original composers for Legend. It was originally Gerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, that's right.
And they finally did release the soundtrack back in the 90s. What did you think of that soundtrack by Gerry Goldsmith? Which do you prefer?
It's interesting because there are pieces of the Mia Sara's dance sequence. I like the Tangerine Dream music better.
The harpsichord and the waltz. Feel.
But it's interesting because those, again, Ridley Scott is an interesting director because he's allowed. There's so many different versions. Like that movie in particular, the longer European version, I think, is the better version of the movie.
It is.
It's almost a half an hour longer, and it has the Goldsmith score. I think it works better, but there's a lot of the Tangerine Dream music that I really do like, and it's interesting. I mean, I find it because if you look at Ridley Scott's career, if you think about Kingdom of Heaven, the long version is much better. Even a movie that I love that nobody else likes, I love The Counselor. His movie, The Counselor.
Oh, that was it was a very good film. It's boring, it's long, but I like those kinds of films. I like the film that tells a good story.
That the extended version's better. I love The Martian. His movie, The Martian. There's an
that
extended version of that.
Once again, when he gets a solid script, look what happens.
I mean, Thelma and Louise, Callie Corey wrote that. Thelma and Louise has a great script. But you're right. But I don't understand why he so allows his movies to have so many different kinds of versions. And Legends, by the way, obviously both versions are available on Blu-ray, which is great.
Yep.
You know that.
And that's all again thanks to Charlie Deslarica, who is Ridley's producer for all of everything they put out on.
I was talking to him last night. We have a Thursday night Zoom call.
Say hi to him from me. He's a really nice guy. I've always liked Charlie.
He's great. He moved to Atlanta. So he lives there with Carly, his wife, and
God, she's gorgeous. Oh my God, I'm like Charlie. You lucky
she put up
bastard.
on Instagram the other day. She's like, I was putting on weight during COVID, so I decided to get back in shape. And she puts this phenomenal picture. I tweeted to her. I'm like, is this from Femme Fatales from 10 years ago? Come on, no, it's from today.
Fat people are crying. Thank you.
I have two things to quickly bring up. You have a $10 super chat from Tickle Trunk again.
I know. I'm trying to get to Mikey Sutton's little comment here, and Mikey Sutton says you guys definitely the lethal weapon.
Very cool.
And he also said thank you, Robert, for reading his articles.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's like one of the go-to people that I read. We're friends on Facebook now, so I see his updates. And
he's not a Twitter guy. He's a Facebook guy, and we talk mostly on Facebook. It's usually James that runs Geekosity for Twitter, and he and I are friends too. But let's get to this super chat from Mr. Tickle Trunk.
By the way, we should say that Mikey does have a Geekosity is an actual website too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's geekositymag.com.
People should check it out.
Absolutely.
Geekosity Mag, we talk about it all the time. I love reading his articles. Sometimes we get to read the articles before they go to print. But anyway, Mr. Tickle Trunk, $10 Canadian. It's 3,000 years later, and humans are now technologically adept and dangerous, but the pilot attacks them. The space jockey was turned into a stupid monster, movie level danger. I was absolutely furious. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
On in the chat about this. Him and I.
It's a beautiful movie, though. Yeah. You know, you look at it. I thought when it first started, I'm like, wow, this is going to be amazing.
Same. It looked so good.
And then you're just like, wait, what? Why is everyone on the ship so monumentally stupid?
Well, that's just it. It's like we all love irony. Irony is wonderful. But I cannot stand stupid irony. That the guy who is the map maker gets lost.
Right.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
That is bad irony.
I mean, these should be the best. Yeah. That's why I can't stand like Star Trek Discovery. The people that are on ships that are in space are the best of the best.
Correct.
They're the top 1%. That's you have to be to get out there on the final frontier. And you know, you're not on the spectrum. I'm sorry. If people, you only can take. It's not about inclusion. It's about you have to be the best of all. Otherwise, people will die. And everybody on the Prometheus was a fucking douche.
Yeah.
Like you people. Oh, look, here's a giant vagina worm. Let me go pick it up and touch it.
I just nothing says dangerous here to me.
Two things. Wait, two things. Can we clip Robert saying the vagina worm thing? I would love to clip that. Secondly, I got to ask in general.
You can clip it. Just download the video from YouTube.
The same thing I want to ask. It's kind of the same. It's in the same kind of universe, but what are your thoughts on the Love, Death, and Robots in the second season trailer?
Oh yes.
Oh, I thought the trailer looked great.
Oh, wasn't it?
I was like, this is dope, man. I love this. Well, I don't know what it is, but it looks great. I thought the first season was uneven, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But this looks great. I mean, thank God they made a second season. Again,
third, you know, too, aren't they?
I'm sure they probably will. I just think that we have to forget, as much as we all bitch and moan and complain about shit online, it's amazing the quality of material. You know, I thought, again, if I do say so myself, Dota was, when I watching it develop, I'm like, this is a really smart show, and because the creators know what they wanted to do with it, and I was privileged to work on it. But when I look at that second season trailer, I'm like, this looks amazing. It looks amazing, and I'm like, this is great stuff that we're getting. And sometimes I think we forget, you know, in our continued bitching about the end of Game of Thrones or Last Jedi or whatever we want to bitch about. People forget that there's so much good stuff that we should be thankful that we're getting. And I'm not saying, I mean, look, who would have thought someone was going to make a Foundation trilogy TV series? I say trilogy because when I was a kid, I got that from the Sci-Fi book club, but it's more than a trilogy. But it's amazing that they're making a Foundation show. I don't know where it is. They've been producing it for years and years, it seems. But man, I can't. And we're getting a new Dune movie. We're getting the Foundation. You know, somebody's going.
There was a rumor that somebody was supposed to also be doing another version or a new version of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea,
which we've talked about, and it's like the possibilities here got Keith and I very excited because we're both fans of the original series.
I think it was supposed to take place a few years after the original series, and I think it was supposed to be about another ship that's been built to carry on the legacy.
So not the Seaview,
right? I hope it's the same design though. They don't need to change that design. They got to keep the design, maybe give it a little bit of an update, but I mean, to me, they're the two greatest science fiction vehicles maybe of all time on television are the Seaview and the Enterprise. You know, and
you'll get no argument from me because those were the two shows.
Like
I loved Lost in Space. I loved Lost in Space. Season 1 was the best.
Oh yeah,
and but my God, I loved Sci-Fi, and the three best shows. Well, technically 4 was Time Tunnel too, and all oddly kind of connected. They're all kind of connected in small ways.
And Land of the Giants.
I was just going to say Land of the Giants.
Yeah. Oh my God, what was the name of that ship? The Spindrift? Yeah, I used to have that model kit. Yeah. Oh my God, I loved it.
Yeah, I just bought some guy online. I just bought a Spindrift T-shirt from him.
Oh,
you know, he has like an Etsy store, some one of these T-shirt stores, and he did. I'm like, oh my God, he made a Spindrift T-shirt. I'm like, click, I'd have that.
What? Okay, you guys are forgetting.
What's your number?
You guys are forgetting the Akira motorcycle. The lovely.
I have that. I have a 6-scale version of it right over there.
Of course.
I love that. I mean, again, that's one of the great.
Robert.
Yes,
what is
sir.
your favorite place to buy T-shirts? What's your favorite source of T-shirts?
I think the best T-shirts are Last Exit to Nowhere T-shirts.
Yep.
And
shit!
For those
everybody, read what's down below. Robert, respond.
Oh, look, I would love that, especially if it was the DC Blackhawks. I mean, that's what I would assume. I even love when Howard Chaykin did the Blackhawks. I mean, I'm a huge Chaykin fan. And the design work. I love his art, but I'd love to see a Blackhawks movie. How great would that be?
Hell yeah! Hey Keith, say Blackhawks.
Blackhawks. Can you say "come hard" now, please? Come hard, Blackhawks, and save us. Say "come hard" and save us, Blackhawks.
It's not an inside joke. It actually happened a previous episode, and Keith said right into camera. And they come hard, and we're like, Steven and I are like on that, like flies on shit, going, whoa, how did they come?
But that's not the best part. We were doing a breakdown of the Love and Monsters trailer, like the 2-minute one, right? And we paused it halfway through, and Gerry goes, "This is complete bullshit." Then we pressed play, and that thing of shit just popped right after he said it in front of him. It was so perfectly timed, we didn't even know. Oh my god!
No, it wasn't the trailer I was calling bullshit. It was something else I was referring to, not the trailer itself. That was bullshit.
It was the skin animation.
Yeah, the skin on some of it just looked really garbage. But all of a sudden, he hits play right after I say bullshit, and a big old dog turd drops on camera. And it was like one of those great payoffs. But awesome. Mikey, that was a really good comment. Do you guys remember the 80s sci-fi show, The Other World? Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I do.
With Jonathan Banks.
Yep.
Jonathan Banks from Wise Guy, and of course now from Better Call Saul and Mike. And the Other World's got some interesting episodes. It's not very good, but it's got some interesting episodes.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've always had that feeling. We have another super chat from Chris Bardo, $4.99. I absolutely love the Evil Dead movies and the Netflix series Ash versus Evil Dead. That was not Netflix. That was
Showcase, Showtime,
Stars.
I think it was Stars, right?
I think it was Stars too.
Stars, that was it.
Yeah,
same with Counterpoint.
And then
Stars,
and then Netflix bought the rights to it.
Yeah,
from them. But yeah, absolutely great series. Betrayed by the fans because they weren't watching it on the channel that they needed to watch it on. Instead, they were download streaming it. And
Star Galactica had that problem too.
Yeah, it's just awful when the fans, they want to watch it, but they don't want to pay to watch it.
Right.
No.
So then it's like, well, don't take it away from us. We're going to do a campaign to save it. It's like the campaign you needed to do was watch the fucking show when it was on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually worked on Army of Darkness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, then one of my best friends, Josh Becker.
Well, I only worked for Altarian Studios, which was we did all the Evil Ash stuff. I was working in makeup effects then. That set was enormous. The set in Acton where they built the castle.
Yeah.
So that was the summer. I was a PA working for Altarian Studios, and we were working on the Swamp Thing TV show, a movie called Sleepwalkers, which was Stephen King's first original screenplay.
I know that one.
And
that's the cat movie.
Yeah. And so I was driving around to all these different sets every day, delivering our whatever prosthetic pieces were needed for the day. And it was fun. Like Machen Amick, the actress who was in Twin Peaks, one of the most gorgeous women in the world. I had such a crush on her, and she was always in the makeup trailer when I had to bring in like these trays of whatever they're going to put on someone's face. And she was always so nice. She's like, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so good. So good."
Better now.
Have you ever heard of Robert? Have you ever heard of the SCP universe? Secure, Contain, Protect. It was like they have a whole wiki and everything. It's all sci-fi, fantasy, creatures, everything.
I have not, but now I want to go see it.
They have built a wiki that's not only like everyone writes short stories in case files. There's YouTube case files. You can find it as well. The game Control is slightly based on some of those things, and like you would have a blast if you down that rabbit hole because it's all original imagination. So picture like a xylophone that will turn you into a xylophone over time, or you eat a piece of gum and you start melting into a pink of green ooze, or you turn on a pair of 3D glasses from like your old comic books and you would see creatures from another dimension. As soon as they see you, they can start beating you up. All that kind of stuff. And it's so well done, and I think you would have fun trying.
Yeah. I'll check that out. You know, that's a great thing. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that I don't know. You know, and then I fall into these rabbit holes. You know, then you start. I remember, is it EVE Online?
Yep.
EVE, yeah. Do you remember? Like, I never played EVE Online. I didn't know anything about EVE Online, but I read the story of like there was some battle that in real life cost EVE Online players. It was some like the Battle of the something sun, where people lost thousands of dollars worth in real money. You know, they had paid to upgrade their ships and whatever. And then in some massive battle, people lost thousands of dollars worth of their in-game stuff in this massive battle. I'm like, I thought that was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard. Like that there was some amazing conflict in a fictional universe. Like if World of Warcraft, like people went, like two factions went to war and people lost thousands and thousands of, I didn't want people to lose their money, but the fact that it actually happened, that there was some amazing conflict in an online world, I'm like, man, I love that we live in a world where this kind of thing can happen. That in EVE Online they can have like in Dune, the Bulgarian Jihad or whatever, the machine revolution, if that were to happen. And I didn't know anything about EVE Online. And I'm like, I started reading about it. I fell down this rabbit hole and I'm like, I want to play this game. And that lasted for about 5 minutes. Once I got into the game, I'm like, I don't understand this at all. I'll never be able to do this. I mean, I'm going to go back to Grand Theft Auto 5.
I think they had a subsidiary of EVE Online. I think it was called Dust. And what it was is I think they did it for consoles as well as PC, but it was more of the ground battles on the planet. So you would have huge battles where you'd have the same type of soldiers. You do have the aircraft, but you'd be taking over for the guys in space, the actual planet battles. They did a great job in that, but I was sad when they no longer kept going with it.
Yeah.
PlanetSide is another one.
There's so many different stuff. That's the thing. If you're an imagination connoisseur, this is the best time ever to be alive. There's so much cool shit everywhere. And even me that tries to keep abreast of it, I'm learning about new stuff every day. You know, and it's fantastic. I love it. You know, even if I'm old and infirm, there'll be some video game to play or something to read or something to watch.
25 isn't old. You're only 25, sir.
What is this MODOK on Hulu?
Don't go down. It's Patton Oswalt's voicing a robot chicken like disgrace to Marvel. It's bad.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It's like a joke.
Bad.
Patton Oswalt.
The thing is, I like
Bad
MODOK.
Monkey Jeebus. Bad Monkey Jeebus.
If you like MODOK, picture this one. It's pretty much him dealing with his wife, but he no longer has his business, and it's like he gets excited seeing the mailman come to the door. This is
MODOK
has
and his
become
crippling bot with depression.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I didn't mean to kill anyone because you got upset.
Well, that's it. The show's over. You killed the show.
I killed Robert. I'm sorry. That's one thing Hot Toys hasn't done yet. Did you notice that?
I actually wanted to say, Robert, well, I'm glad you brought up toys, Stephen. Thank you for the Prisoner. Posting Prisoner.
Oh, I love that too. When you post that,
bunch of those.
I lost my shit. I'm like, they make the Prisoner action figure?
Yeah, you know what? They keep talking about people who've been promoting their line of toys. They never mention me. I'm like, dude, my promotion of your Kickstarter, people have been buying your shit because I promoted that stuff.
You're responsible for 80% of the sales.
Isn't that cool? I was like, wow. Because with Heel versus Babyface, we did 18 Prisoner streams last year where we reviewed every episode.
Yeah, one of Keith's and my first shows was talking about our favorite shows, and that was one that we went ad nauseum about.
Oh,
because just loved everything. I want to go vacation at that villa. I want to go there down in Wales.
And you go to Port Marion.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there. I mean, I when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I just went down to the bottom. I'm like, there has to be what's the bottom? And when they said it's degree absolute, and it's like $248, I'm like, click. Like, I need all of those. I don't, give them all to me. Now they have stretch goals. You can add. They've got the little penny farthing display bases for the figures. I'm like, I have to have them all.
I like the one where you get the rover and you can put him inside.
I know. It's like
I have a serious question to ask. How long until Robert Meyer decides to do I'm going to build this Lego set stream and watch him do a Lego set live?
Well, it's I have the original iteration of the Star Destroyer, the collector Star Destroyer. That's in the first one that they did about 15 years ago.
You can't.
And it's destroyed.
It's destroyed. It's a destroyed destroyer.
It was very, very, very rickety, and it's just moving. I have all the parts; they're in a box, but I don't have my instruction manual online. So I'm like, I need to figure out.
They don't have it online. You can't find a PDF.
They might. I haven't because I would have to set all the parts up. But I want to get the new Star Destroyer and the Falcon. I never have got those two. Those are the two I really want to get, because the new Star Destroyer, it's just the old one is the big triangular pieces of the Star Destroyer used magnets, and it was that's why it was so rickety, that you had these big planes of Lego that you had to just attach with magnets, and it
didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't. It was not the best. It was not. It's still cool.
Hey, Robert. Mikey has a question for you.
Yes. I have seen Jack Kirby's Prisoner art, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Somebody sent me, like, I didn't know about that. And when we were doing the stream, somebody was telling me all about it and like sent me shots of it. And I never heard, I didn't know, and it made sense. I mean, Kirby, at Comic-Con, I almost dropped $13,000 that I didn't have, but there was a 2-page spread from the 2001 adaptation Kirby did of the Discovery, and it was a 2-page spread. I'm like, and it was the original art, and I've always wanted. I don't own any. I don't collect original comic art, but I wanted that because it was Stanley Kubrick and Jack Kirby. But I was like, how am I going to justify? How am I going to eat? I at the time I was working, I was making good money, but even I was like, I can't spend $13,000 on Jack Kirby comic art. Bobby got to eat. I was like, I wasn't gonna, but I almost did. I thought about it, but it was amazing. But so yeah, the Prisoner, and I mean, Kirby obviously was a huge genre fan, not just because he created, but he liked other things. I mean, he liked science fiction, and I would love to own a great piece of Kirby art, something from the Fourth World, or if I had the money, I would find out who owns that Discovery art and buy it, because I should have, because it was awesome.
Hey, Robert, got another question here from the very lovely Nerd Cookies. I don't know if you know her. She's amazing. She has one of the best channels about Dune I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought Andre knew his shit. She knocks it out of the park. She asks, Robert Meyer Burnett, have you seen the Baron Harkonnen figure from McFarlane Toys?
And it's really, I wanted to get, it's funny because they came out, and I think that Baron Harkonnen was the build. Was it the Build-A-Figure or did it come out? It's cool.
Him in the big, he's about 12 inches tall. If we're talking about the same one.
Yeah, it's 12 inches tall, and it's also raised. It's got I'm not sure how they have him held up by the back or what, but he's supposed to be levitating. So it makes him even taller, like 18 inches.
Yeah, it's I read the script for Dune, for the upcoming Dune movie, and the script is great. And as a matter of fact, I did a stream about it where I reviewed the script, and Warner Brothers, I had a copyright strike against my YouTube channel where I they made me take it down. And I was like, come on, man. It's based on a goddamn book.
Yeah, you only get 3 of those, Robert. Be careful.
No, they dropped it. You have to wait after like 90 days or something. It goes away. But it was what they were going to do. The plan that I've understood is the plan was to make 3 Dune movies that told the Paul Atreides story. So the Dune movie that's coming out is only half of the first book. It's not even the entirety of Dune. David Lynch's Dune was loosely covered the entire first book, but they were going to make 3 movies. This is what I understand how they were doing it. It was going to be Dune Prophet was going to be the second, and then Dune Messiah, obviously the third book, or the second book. The third book's Children of Dune, but it was going to tell the whole story, basically the rise and fall of Paul Atreides. And I thought the script was great. The script for the movie they've made, really good. And you recognize a lot of the scenes, but it's really, really, really. I can't wait. It's my most eagerly awaited movie that hasn't come out yet. I can't wait to see it, and I hope it does well, because I want them to make the other 2. I want to see that with the story, and the script opened with Duncan Idaho orbit diving down to the surface of Arrakis to hook up with the Fremen, which was really, I thought, was a cool way to open the movie. But
that's definitely I mean, to open on something different than what they did with the original film, which I am a fan of the original Dune from David Lynch.
Yeah.
I had dinner with David Lynch the following year.
Oh, wow.
And because one of the lead artists on the film, Ron Miller, I lived with him and his wife, Judy. I was apprenticing. And so I got to go to this +1 dinner. And but right when we get there, I'm told, do not bring up Dune. And I'm like, that is all I want to talk about.
Yeah.
No, don't bring it up. Can I just talk about the art? Don't bring up anything dealing with Dune.
Yeah. No, now that is the year 10,191. No, they do something. Actually, they do something similar. How Lynch's movie opens with Princess Irulan, they do something similar in this movie, but it's the Reverend Mother who is doing. I shouldn't say anymore, but it's I can't wait.
Do you think having it on HBO Max simultaneously might hurt the chances of sequels? Because I make a lot of. These are big budget movies.
I think here's what I think. I think Blade Runner was never successful. And the idea that they're going to spend $180 million on a Blade Runner sequel was probably a mistake. Even though I love Blade Runner 20. Yeah, I love Blade Runner.
I will say this. That built the modern Warner Brothers. Because what they made on VHS and disc sales for Blade Runner for 1982 really made just shit tons of money.
No, it did. But they didn't even release the first version of the movie. It was Embassy Home Entertainment that released Blade Runner at first, and it was one of the first DVDs certainly that came out that Warner Brothers put out, and Blade Runner was later put out by Warner Brothers. But the idea, I mean, Blade Runner 2049 didn't make very much money. Like, it barely. And I think the thing that I worry about with Dune is they've spent a lot of money on this, and it's. I think the world we live in that. I mean, whether you like the end of Game of Thrones, I did not, but Game of Thrones at least prepared the universe that we now live in. People understand these sprawling Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, these sprawling multi-generational sagas in a fantasy context, and Dune is really one of those. And I think that now more than ever, the audience will understand what Dune is more than ever. So I'm hoping it does well, but it's not populist entertainment, really. And when you read the script, I'm like, well, this is great. This is so adult. I just wonder, are the kids going to go? And I love the Marvel movies. I do. And I growing up from seeing comic books writ large on the big screen like that, I love it. Whether it's imperfect or not, I love the Marvel movies. I thought the Infinity Saga, I couldn't believe what I was watching half the time. When I first saw the first Avengers movie, I'm like shaking my head half the time going, I can't believe I'm watching this. I can't believe I'm watching an Avengers movie. I thought it was crazy. But with Dune, I hope people are going to love it, because I'm sure it's beautifully made, just like Blade Runner 2049 was beautifully made, but it's very adult. It's not some action movie that you really have to think about it. I mean, Dune is a thinking. The book is like, I'm a huge fan of the 6 original books. Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune. The 6 original Herbert Dune novels I really, really love. I've never read any of the other. No offense to Brian.
I'm not a big fan of Brian's writing. Frank's was the true Dune books to me. Nerd Cookie is a lot nicer about Brian's books. Much nicer.
They've expanded the mythology, but to me, it's like Dune is really the product of one man's imagination. And when that man is gone, you can play in that universe, but it's not his universe. It's not his anymore. So
it's kind of like Edgar Rice Burroughs and John Carter. You can't continue that story. I mean, it's always going to be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I think I think what's interesting about one of the problems with like modern Star Trek is even Rick Berman, during the Berman era, he worked with Gene Roddenberry. So he understood, and I used to think that Rick Berman was public enemy number 1 during the Star Trek days because, I was not a big fan, but after doing the Blu-rays and the documentaries and actually spending time with him and sitting down, I got to interview him and pretty much ask him anything I wanted. He was very forthcoming. He did bring Roddenberry's sort of overarching ethos of that utopian future into he produced 25 seasons of Star Trek over 18 years. And even when you got all the way to the end of Enterprise, there was still a shred of the DNA of Roddenberry in all of that Star Trek. It might not have always been great, but it was still there. And I think that's what Berman did, whereas modern Star Trek has no connection at all to what Roddenberry is going to do. And everyone's trying to change Star Trek into something that it's not. Exactly. One, they want it to be a profitable. They're like, it's got to be a profitable franchise, like Star Wars.
It's the pod people version of Star Trek.
Yes,
it's not even Star Trek.
It's really dumb. It's really dumb. Star Trek has been really dumb since 2009.
It seems like they're almost offended by the original Star Trek.
Yeah, they are, because it has imagination. It has the betterment of mankind, not the betterment of a single ethnicity or a single gender or a single who you're fucking tonight mentality. That's the problem.
Yeah. No, it's funny. You watch a show like For All Mankind, which is created by Ron Moore, and they do a far better job of all kinds of representation in that show.
As did The Expanse.
As did The Expanse. Yeah, you look at these things and so much better. And that's why what I don't understand is Star Trek should be, modern Star Trek, with the amount of money they're spending on these shows, should be the Tiffany gold standard of televised science fiction. And it's not. Nope. The Expanse is, but again, The Expanse is based on books, and For All Mankind takes a lot of they've got a real history that they are turning on its edge or on its side, so they can look into that. But there's just, there's Ron Moore he's got 30 years of writing behind him. It's just,
Ron Moore should have taken over Star Trek.
I agree.
Yes,
he saved TNG, he saved DS9, and he saved Voyager, and then the partners did a sneaky fucking meeting after he left the office, and just by chance he forgot something. He comes back and catches them red-handed having a meeting about Enterprise after they had sworn he was going to manage the next property, the next show.
Yeah,
just fuckery.
But fuckery. Then we did get Battlestar Galactica because of that. That.
And the irony of that is that Battlestar Galactica that he created is what got Enterprise canceled. Because Les Moonves, who hates science fiction, period, wanted something more like Battlestar Galactica. Even though they had met his mark for where the show needed to be to keep it going, he saw Battlestar Galactica and how it was being responded to and said, "No, I'm canceling it. We wanted that."
And Voyager was supposed to be closer to that too.
Yeah,
that's where the original vision started.
Les Moonves Rick Berman told us when we were interviewing him, it's not in our documentaries, that Les Moonves called him and wanted him to fire Scott Bakula. And Rick Berman said, basically, fuck you. And so when Star Trek ended, Les Moonves made sure that none of Rick Berman's projects that he had in development went anywhere. So
what the fuck? I never heard this.
Why?
Yeah.
Rick Berman told us straight up. And so then he just decided, look, I've made ungodly sums of money on Star Trek. I'm going to retire. I mean, Rick Berman actually, when we went to his house to interview him, and he has a beautiful wife, he has a beautiful house, and he's really a man of culture. I mean, he's well traveled around the world, and when you went into his house, there was a real elegance. He's a very, and again, my only experience with him was interviewing him over the course of doing Enterprise and doing this Next Generation Blu-rays, but he struck me as a very, just a very worldly, intelligent guy. He was different than I imagined he would be. And I think one of the things about him was that, he never wanted to wind up doing Star Trek. And I think in a way, even to this day, he might feel that in a way he was sort of slumming a bit, that he would, because he produced, like, in the 70s, there was a show on Saturday morning called Big Blue Marble, which is a show for kids. But yeah, it was a travel show. He was involved with that. And I think Rick Berman would have liked to have made, something like The English Patient, or something like that. But he got in and involved in Star Trek and stayed there and did the best he could. And I mean, 18 years, 25 seasons of Star Trek and 4 feature films. I mean, sure, I think they needed new blood. I mean, after 18 years, come on, it's like you got to get some new blood in there. But I mean, for the most part, you look at, there's still some Star Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. There's some great stuff in all of those shows, and all of them are more intelligent than what we're getting now.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Hey, I want to welcome to the panel Mad Mardigan.
Hello.
He's the one who did the edit of our 1984 video with Tom. That was over 2 hours, and he got it down to an hour and a half.
Yeah, I just cut out all the BS at the end. Yargis talking about nothing. I just cut out all that, and it was
you get Tom, Keith, and I talking, and just it's just a whole bunch of just talking about nothing.
Why do I picture that whole hour and a half, all Gerry and Tom and Keith or whatever are cut out, and it's just Mad Mardigan sitting there shaking his head, going, "I gotta edit this after." For an hour and a half.
Have you met Mad Mardigan, Robert?
No, I don't think we've ever streamed together.
No, and this is an absolute honor for me. I loved you and Snap on Collider, and like you were the best. You guys were the best part of it. And after losing Snap, and then you being they did you dirty so bad. And
yeah, that was a really. To be fair, it wasn't their fault. It was what happened with Schnepp. There was, I think, a misunderstanding. It was more. It really didn't start with Collider. It was something that spilled over to Collider.
Hey guys,
I just responded.
Look down. Look just below you there.
Oh,
that's
really?
Mikey Sutton, Captain America 4.
No. What was it? Him in the Miami airport with a geriatric chair? What are they going to do?
What does that mean?
We don't know.
First time young again. It's comics.
And
is it Chris
Captain
Evans
America 4?
He's saying they didn't say what's going on, but it is officially announced.
It's right here. It's on Deadline. In the wake of Falcon and the Winter Soldier season finale last night, the series showrunner Malcolm Spellman is already busy with Delan Mousson on a 4th Captain America. While not confirmed, sources say the project is writing could be one focused on Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson character, while the possible Chris Evans Captain America project would be separate. So there, no director or casting. Marvel wasn't available for comment.
Of course not. The custom artwork they used for that, it looks horrible. No, he doesn't need a shield.
Mikey says it too. It will pick up after Falcon.
But the thing that bothers me is like when they did the first promo intro for the series released, right? Like it's showing him how about the shield or being worth of the shield, right? And he's holding the shield, but then you see him in the trailer 3 seconds later using his wings as a shield. So why does he need 2 shields? Why does he need 2? Because why?
Because
why? You're talking Kurtzman logic. I don't care.
Because he needs a shield.
A second shield means he has double the shield.
By the way, on the same thing, Doom Patrol adds 5 in recurring roles to the season 3 cast.
Oh, really?
That's pretty interesting.
I'm good friends with Phil Morris. I'm hoping we're going to see more of him.
Yeah, Phil Lord is great.
Keith and I have had him on, and we want to get him on again. God, he's a great guest.
He is so cool, and I need to ask him more questions about Justice League, the New Frontier, because he was one of the voices in that, which I introduced a lot of people to just the other day who had never seen it. New Frontier is definitely one of the best animated productions they've ever made.
Oh, it's so good. So and the comic was good too.
Oh,
I mean, I love that. It's so good. I have that Absolute Edition.
Oh man, I would
Right?
love to get my hands on that.
You know, I keep looking at you down there, Mad, and I swear to God, the way you're sitting and the way your camera is, you look like one of those people that's a quadriplegic.
What?
With sitting in your chair, the camera aimed down at you.
Yeah. Well, because the monitor's so damn big, man. Like,
Actually, you do look much smaller on camera than.
No, this is Stephen Hawking.
That's all you need is little. What is that?
Hey, I thought we were here to talk to Robert. He's here. He's a guest. Why are we focused on?
Is Matt blushing?
I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you in days, and it's my first chance to shit on you. So come on, give a guy a break.
Did all that work?
Hey man, I wouldn't get in the way of that.
Yeah, let him shit on him.
Matt is a new addition to the team. We've been friends with him for a bit, but the fact is I think he adds a good voice to the team when we're doing our shows. Like, especially we had Rod Lurie on, the director of The Outpost. And I was the only veteran on the group that knew anything about the military, and so I'm like, I want to bring in somebody else that knows something about the military. And of course, he's a combat veteran, Mad Mardigan is, and so it added a great perspective.
Hey, Keith stole that show by crying his way through it. So.
Yeah, Keith, God, you're worse than Kevin Smith.
Which Keith, white or black Keith? Oh, wait, I have a quick. This is a serious question. Then, since you brought this up, who cries better, the cast of Discovery or Kevin Smith?
Oh shit! That's the question.
There you go, Robert. Question
Kevin
of the day.
Smith. Kevin Smith, because the cast of Discovery, when they cry, they're pussies, but when Kevin Smith cries, it's real.
True.
They're homesick on Discovery.
I love your hair, Robert.
It's getting drier and drier.
Beautiful, Robert. Oh.
See, 6 asked questions like this. I'm not sure if she's fucking with me.
She's fucking
or what.
with me.
And I'm assuming she's fucking with
you.
me because she's so mean to me. She is so mean to me.
Gary, you've been in the military?
Mean to me too.
Yeah, he worked at the mess hall.
I never heard you mention this.
I like the chow. I like the chow.
and it's like other Gary, he owned a comic book store once.
Yeah, which is like being in the military.
Yeah, it's
but
like
different.
Being in the military. Different.
It's just different.
They're secretly dating, Robert. I'm sorry. T-shirt and Gary have like the secret love they try not to show online, but it always fails. It's okay.
I know. Well, we just can't decide who's going to be the bottom.
I told him that if he ever finds my penis, it's his.
What?
They play where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
And you know what popped out?
Just more fat. Just a lot of fat.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fatty fat.
This is getting awkward. This is getting.
So, Robert, do you have any projects?
It's not awkward until we direct it at the guest, and we're not directing it at the guest.
True.
No, you're ignoring him
amongst
completely.
ourselves, and no, we're entertaining him. He's being entertained right now.
He's looking at his watch, going, "I need to get the fuck out."
These guys are fucking
because I have to do a stream, but that's okay.
Yeah, what stream are you going to next?
Just my own show, Rob's.
Oh, you're on. What time are you going on?
At 3.
All right, guys.
Oh,
we're all going to leave here and go watch his show.
Or go with him on his panel and just embarrass him there too.
Oh yes, let's totally go to his panel.
I was kidding, T-shirt.
I wasn't.
I know,
I know you're not.
That's the sad part.
But let's get some last questions in. Oh, good one about Pablo Hidalgo. Oh my God.
No.
God, I fucking hate that guy.
I'm sorry.
Hater Hidalgo.
I got a flat tire. That was a joke. Ha ha ha. When I'm not playing words with friends with Sheldon, I like to think about the universe. Many people find the universe confusing.
Okay, the joke's done. We got it. We laughed. Move on.
It was still going. I couldn't press the pause button.
That's the voice you should have, Mad Mardigan. That's what he's saying.
You should be like street smart.
That was the joke.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't a good one.
No, your camera angle was a joke.
Says the man without being on camera.
I don't dox myself.
How is it doxing?
Yeah.
Showing your
God,
face?
here we go. Here we go.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if there are any more questions in the chat, and I'm not really seeing anything.
Thank you, Socks.
He's an addict. Stop highlighting my comments.
We end on that
hates
one.
it when I do that one.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go ahead and leave that one there.
YouTube is deleting. I think it's their actual algorithm. If you would just type www dot and leave nothing in the middle, and even just .com, you'll delete that too.
Yeah, there were some channels that I talked to last night, the popular channels that were having this
Popcorn
shit done
Planet.
to them. Have you had it done to you yet, Robert?
Not that I know of.
You will.
You know, I don't. Why are they deleting material?
It's Google itself that's doing it, and we don't know why yet. There's no explanation. It's just like when Fat Steven posts something, I can see it here because I have my own version of the private chat in StreamYard. You know that. But over on YouTube, nobody's seeing it.
Yeah, it only seemed to start to happen partway through the stream because the first couple I didn't see get taken out, and then bam, it was
these are comments? They're taking out comments?
No, when you post
when he
links
shares
to
a
places.
link. Yep, when he shares a link.
Oh,
My
even
dog
your
is gonna
moderators,
make
yeah.
shit.
they're getting deleted.
Yep. It says Google moderator. This is from Natasha. She's a regular moderator for Midnight's Edge. And God, she works with a bunch of them. She says Google moderator is blocking links, even Wikipedia.
And custom emojis, some custom emojis. So this is definitely an algorithm thing.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Because they only want us to promote nighttime shows like Stephen Colbert and Bill Maher and anything that has lots of
I'm
that.
guessing it's to stop everyone from leaving the site or promoting any of those outside sources aside from super chats.
Well, all they got to do is, have link open in a new window. That's something you set up in the settings from their end. So that's just dumb.
Try an experiment, and we'll all link to Brie Larson.
I'm not extending.
Somebody share something from RedTube.
Oh, I refuse.
Oh boy.
Are you enjoying the hijinks on our channel?
I am enjoying the hijinks on your channel.
I apologize.
I'm trying to.
We're so cheeky.
I just can't. I just was waiting to see which RedTube video you would show. Like what?
I don't know.
What are you into? You know, what's going to be the one you decide?
I was into the Karate Kid. But...
Hi, my name's Gerry, not Jerry. I'm a power bottom.
the quicksand porn thing. Oh my god!
This stuff to my parents. So
6 is asking for quicksand porn.
Yeah, I heard about that on another stream. I was like,
oh,
real?
It is real.
It's real.
I had never heard of it before until that stream you're talking about, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Wait till you start seeing the bronies trapped in quicksand porn, and then it just goes off the rails.
This is, right here, this comment right here. This show is too much fun. This is part of the reason why I built the panel that we have, is because we all know how to shit on each other and have a good time. And so we give information, we talk about stuff seriously, and then we just have a hot load of fucking grab assery.
You just did hot load.
Hot load.
So we got Come Hard and Hot Load. This is the new team there right here.
Hot load.
Oh,
Go ahead, capture it. Use it again, because I like that shit, buddy.
I bet you do all over your chest. That's great.
I happen to have said hot load on purpose.
For anyone who's eating or planning on eating in the next 30 minutes, I do apologize.
No, you don't.
I know I don't, but I'm just trying to look sympathetic.
Yeah, I want to look like I care.
And he eats asparagus, too.
And if you didn't notice, Steven's avatar is, of course, his cartoon face on Andre.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Who has the single sexiest voice on YouTube? Oh, I can never
just like him because he speaks with an accent.
I can do Batwoman.
I also have that accent. I am also sexy.
And yet you're not sexy. I don't get it.
Is he making out with his pop filter?
I am.
I don't know. Yeah, here we go. Sean Crummell, who's an amazing comic book artist. If you've never seen his stuff, you should check it out. Derailed. This is what happens near the end of the show. We derail. oh, Mikey Sutton. There goes my lunch.
You derailed.
And then Mikey adds, I want Andre's accent. We all want Andre's accent.
Well,
yes.
The thing with that, Gerry, they actually have with their Patreon now. He's actually going to be doing live reads of, I think, Norwegian novels, I believe. So you can actually hear his voice doing.
And it was great because you and Lorena had him on, but I noticed something during the entire show that you didn't make Andre laugh, which is sad because Keith will tell you there is one person on this panel that's made him laugh twice.
Because
when you first made him laugh, person, so fuck you, Steven.
That's fine, Gerry.
Actually, there's two, because when he was on with me, I made him laugh.
That's made up. You're just making shit up now.
He's never been on a panel with me because
Yeti isn't even a real show. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. He just says he does. It's like real
Yeti
popular.
Just wanders around with pictures of Gina Carano. And
Gina Carano follows him. And he knows I shit him because I love him so much.
That's the difference between real interviews and comedic interviews, Gerry. There you go. You found the baseline.
Oh my God!
What? Steve. No, that doesn't have to be a thing. You can have it.
It does. I'm gonna own that shit.
Okay, then. All right. I don't have to finish that point. I can come back to it later.
Oh man!
Stephen talking.
Keith is like, welcome to the show.
I was trying to ask questions of the guests. I tried. Robert.
Hey, go ahead. We've got to. We need to wrap it up.
No.
Let's get the last question in.
So let me ask, what the fuck happened with the movie? What was not the movie? The movie trivia game. Like, when did they start doing WWF on Collider with the movie trivia game? Because I hated it.
You mean on the Schmoedown?
The Schmoedown, yeah. Who lost their shit over there to go like, no, guys, what people really would like if we're like the WWF of trivia?
Well, I mean, it was always from when I first started, it was always kind of designed to be that way.
Right.
You know, Mark Ellis and Harloff, Christian Harloff created the Schmoedown to sort of be that way. And, you know, when I started, it was interesting because I the first time I did it, I was like, it was kind of fun, you know, like you just whatever you knew off the top of your head.
Yeah.
And it was fun, you know, but then these rivalries developed and they went more toward like I got to play. I was never a big wrestling fan. And Christian was talking to me like, what if you became a heel? And I was like, what's a heel? You know, I didn't even understand it. And so they allowed me to wear, I had this jacket that I bought like 20 years ago that was in my closet. I never wore it. I'm like, oh, I'll wear this. And then I looked into, he's like, yeah, you should be like Ric Flair. And I looked like, and I'm like, I'll be that guy. And I had fun. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it's still going, and they were able to keep it going through the pandemic. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, they've kept it going.
I don't think.
And it's still got a really fervent fan base. I don't do it anymore. I got a little canceled.
Yeah,
I got a little canceled, and I was removed from the movie trivia Schmoedown, which was kind of annoying. But
do you want to say what happened or?
Yeah, so during the Black Lives Matter riots, there was a video that was really disturbing to me, and it was of former police captain David Dorn. He was a black police captain that was killed. He was protecting apparently a friend of his had a pawn shop.
Yep,
and he was protecting that pawn shop, and he was killed. He was shot to death on the sidewalk
and left there.
Yep. And there was a video of somebody walked up to him and he was dead on the sidewalk. And I saw this video and I was so incensed by it. I couldn't believe it. And David Dorn was the grandfather of 10 and the father of 5. And there were people that went to that store specifically to rob it. They were armed robbers that went to this store specifically under the cover of these riots to knock over this pawn shop. I would assume because it had guns, but I don't know that. So yeah, I made a tweet. I tweeted, you want out? I wrote, you want outrage, motherfuckers? Where's somebody exercising their Second Amendment rights? You know, who is there to protect him? And I don't know how I worded it. Maybe it wasn't the best, but I retweeted it with that video. And I thought it was apparent that I was outraged by this man, a good man, losing his life on a sidewalk for what? You know, and then what RGB, Robert Butler, director, who I worked with on the Schmoedown for years. Now he's black, and he retweeted what I had said without the David Dorn video.
Oh.
And he retweeted it, and he took it to mean that I thought that protesters should be killed. He reframed it that I believed Black Lives Matter protesters should be killed. Well, that's not.
Oh.
And I went back to him. I'm like, I'd worked with him for like 3 years. I was like, fuck you, dude. That's not what I said. I did say fuck you to him, but I mean, the fact that he retweeted my tweet out of context and reframed it, I was like, that's not what I said at all. So I went and immediately made an apology video. That's not what I meant.
Never apologize.
I know, but it was so all of this went down in the first 30. All this was within the space of like 30 minutes. Wow. So I figured, okay, and that was. I figured it was over. Because people, if you've watched my show or know anything about me, I mean, I'm not advocating, but when somebody takes your words, so within a very short period of time, everybody at the Schmoedown, it was a pile-on. There were people that I'd worked with that I actually really liked, calling me a garbage person, and it went really far. And what was funny was I'd already put my apology video up for this, and I was sorry that I swore at RGB. That was not right for me to do, and I was trying to explain that no, this is not what I meant. That it was all about this original tweet. And so all the people I work with started calling me a garbage person, and I always hated that guy. And I'm like, wow. Like when I did the Schmoedown, I would just walk in, do my bit, and leave. Yeah. Like none of these people really knew me, but I was surprised because I thought I was always having fun with everybody, and we had a really good time. And then I was immediately removed from the Schmoedown, and they got rid of me.
It's like they find that moment, Robert. Sorry, and it's like once they find that moment to get in there and make you or make whoever it is the villain, they take it and they make that narrative, like you're saying with that tweet. They took it, they misconstrued it, they put it back up, and this is the perfect time to get rid of someone that probably wanted out for a while, and they went with it. And
but it was funny.
Mind-blowing.
It was weird because I mean, I always was nice to everybody. I never had any problem with anyone, but I was walking in and playing this really loud, obnoxious character. And this was not the first time. The whole thing that went down with Schnepp and Collider was also something that I had absolutely no control over, and I was portrayed as a well. You know what? I'll talk about it. I'll tell you right now exactly what happened. So, and I'll say this flat out, and I'll admit this on the show now because there's enough water under the bridge. But I'll say this. I was at the hospital when John Schnepp was declared brain dead.
Damn.
And I was there with his girlfriend, Holly. And it was harrowing. And John was not feeling well on Monday. And by Saturday, he had a stroke in the hospital. He was brain dead.
Oh, shit.
That day, I was with Holly. And that day, afterwards, they decided to have a GoFundMe campaign to raise money to pay for all the enormous hospital costs. And I was asked, I got a phone call. I'd left the hospital. I got a phone call asking me about the guy, and I don't remember who actually was doing this because Holly was obviously a mess. Yeah. The wording of the GoFundMe campaign was "Get well, John Schneider. Get well, John Schnepp." It's whatever it was. It went up the way. And I said, listen, the one comment I made, I said, John he's already been declared brain dead, but maybe you would like to rephrase this because the idea being put forth is that he might recover. And when it said, get well, John, and I'm like, from my perspective, I don't think that's right. And it could be maybe construed as being fraudulent. So why don't you change the wording? That's all I said. Hung up with the guy. Never. Then that night, Holly called me. John, I mean, I can't imagine the grief that she was feeling. I can't imagine. And they'd been together for a very long time, lived together. They were producing together. I was helping them out on their show. They were doing a TV version of The Death of Superman Lives, What Happens. I mean, we went to Bryan Singer's house and interviewed him about the Unmade Logan's Run. Holly called me up screaming at me, saying, "Who am I to say something like this?" and blah blah blah. And I didn't quite understand where her anger, but she was nuclear. And I said, "Listen, all I said was change the wording. That's all I said." And she was furious with me. And as a result of that, she called people at Collider. She said I was not to be, and of course the people at Collider, they're dealing with her grief, and it was tremendous. And I completely understood that. But I'm like, I wasn't going to say shit. I'm not going to fight against essentially a grieving widow.
No.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand where her anger came from. I just made one suggestion about the wording of this GoFundMe campaign. Well, the GoFundMe campaign went online saying "Get Well John Schnepp" made over $200,000. So good on them, but it did say "Get Well John Schnepp" and they raised $200,000 with, I think, a lot of people donated thinking maybe he might get better. He was not going to get better.
It's very misleading.
He was already brain dead when that GoFundMe campaign went up. So all of this was happening, and I suddenly start getting phone calls from everybody at Collider. Mark Fernandez, Christian Harloff, and they're all talking to me like, you need to just stand down. And I'm like, and then this narrative erupted that I wanted to take over John Schnepp's position as the head of Collider. And I'm like, as the head of Collider Heroes, like I would take over as the host. Well, for me, it was John's show. Mm-hmm. I came on episode 6 of the show. And without John, there was I was not interested, and I made it clear that I was not interested in hosting the show. But I guess Holly thought that I was angling to do so. So I was completely attacked and destroyed over something. All I did was make a suggestion about a GoFundMe campaign.
You were trying to show respect to him.
Yeah, that's all I was doing. And it turned into this monstrous thing at Collider. So I go, and this was Comic-Con. So Saturday, they didn't tell anybody that he was brain dead. And I think it was when we got to Comic-Con. This was during Comic-Con. It was finally announced. So when I go to Comic-Con, there was a reception. We were all going to meet in the top of the Hyatt and have a drink and remember John Schnepp. And when I was there, Coy Jandrew came up to me, who I was on the show with, him and Amy Dallin. Coy's like, "Listen, I just have to do whatever Holly says." And I'm like, I didn't even understand what he meant by that. I didn't get what was going on. The following Monday after Comic-Con, they had a John Schnepp memorial show on Collider.
Yeah.
He didn't let you on.
I wasn't invited.
What the fuck?
I was on that show for 3.5 years with John Schnepp. And because of this outrage of one comment that I made, I was not welcome on the John Schnepp show. And of course, everyone's like, "Why aren't you on the show?" And I couldn't say what I didn't want to say. I wasn't going to step into it. I wasn't going to defend myself and say, "This is utterly absurd. And it's so wrong that you're doing this to me for." And by the way, it was fucking fraud. I'll say it right now. It was fraud. $200,000 was raised because people thought that John Schnepp could get better.
Yep.
That happened. And then, of course, I
hate you because you're ethical.
Well, it was. I like all the people at Collider. Let me be clear about that. I loved everybody that I work with there. I loved doing Collider Heroes. I loved working with Amy and Coy and John. I loved John Roca. I really liked everybody that I work with. I never had a couple of times Amy and I got into it because she didn't like things I'd said on Twitter. And she flat out would tell me how she felt. And I had a lot of respect for her. And sometimes I can be mouthy. But I really liked everybody at Collider. They were put into a situation. I mean, Holly didn't have anything to do with Collider. But they were trying to appease a woman that was in the depths of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that. And there was no fight that I was going to win there. So I just backed off.
You were the bigger person, Robert.
And took it. But now, a couple months later, this was in July, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, John Campea calls me. and says, hey, Campia calls me because we had started. Campia had left Collider, and John Campia, John Schnepp, and I started the first show I did on Collider Heroes was with John Campia and John Schnepp, and I always enjoyed streaming with John. And Campia said, why don't we do our own hero show, comic show? And I was like, okay. And John had reached out and was very nice about the whole thing, and I said, okay, because I did get paid to do Collider Heroes. And it was not a lot of money, but it was still income. That was just, I was dismissed from the show for no fault of my own, simply because Holly was mad at me I still to this day, I don't understand why she thought I was trying to take John. I don't get it. But when John Campia and I started streaming, Holly went after us on social media and said horrible shit. Tweeted horrible things about us and how John always hated you both and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't even understand why. I get it in her grief and all that. What did she think that we were doing? Like, I started on YouTube because I was on a show with John Schnepp and John Campia. I probably did 100 episodes of Collider of Heroes with John Campia and John Schnepp.
Do you think by proxy, Robert, that she made you the vessel of all her anger and grief, and she has not learned how to detach herself from that and realize that maybe she's gone crazy? Even though you'll probably never get an answer, maybe you will. She's literally just made you that bullseye because that's where she needs to put it all.
I think, yeah, maybe, but also there was this misperception, I think, that somehow, I from what I understand, John got paid for that show, and Holly and John lived together, so it was hurting her income as well. John's death, and I think she was worried about her own well-being, which I totally understand. And I think it would be interesting to audit where did that $200,000 go. I mean, as far as I know, John had insurance, so. For me, I was treated horribly, and I've never really spoken about it until now, but I'll tell you now because years have gone by. But it was no one had my back. No one said that, well, wait a minute, you can't not have Rob on that show, because the viewers didn't know anything about this. And I certainly, I was streaming with John, the week he passed away, and there was no problem at all. And it was definitely problematic, and it was something that was very hurtful to me personally. And I didn't, in someone's grief, you never go after a grieving widow. No. And yet it wasn't just that time. It was when I started streaming with John Campia that she came after us again. And I'm like, what am I now supposed to not? I've been on YouTube for 3.5 years. What am I not supposed to go stream with John? And I've been streaming with John for another in August it'll be 3 years, and in July it'll be 3 years since Schnepp passed away. And I've been streaming with John since then. And I have to say, John Campia is a very stand-up guy. And whenever he's ever had a problem with me, or if sometimes I've streamed on channels, John's like, look, man, I appreciate, but he'll tell me. John will tell you. John is very upfront. He's very direct. Good. And he's been a great boss. And I have a lot of respect for him. There are people that don't like John, people that do like John. There's people that don't like me. But I will say this. John Campia, of all the people that I've worked with in the entertainment business, has been one of the most stand-up, direct people that I've worked with. And I really appreciate his work ethic. I appreciate what he does with his show. I learned a lot about YouTube from him, and I enjoy streaming with him. And I think that he is a really stand-up guy. And you always know where you stand with him. And I think that's refreshing in the business, in the world that I've inhabited.
It's necessary, Rob, because the more people that are blunt and direct to you, whether something happens or not, that at least you're on the same field and they're not hiding shit in the back. So that's a way of going, and it's the way it should be. The ones that don't say anything either don't have the balls, or they're so wrapped up in their own, whether it is emotional or physical or mental paranoias, that they don't realize that they're causing a singular worse problem rather than directing to the problem.
Well, I think part of it is also that when you say somebody, what you're doing there is stupid, and they get in their head, you're calling me stupid. No, I'm saying what you're doing is stupid.
Yeah.
It sort of falls into that same area that she identified with what you were saying, is saying that what she was doing was wrong somehow.
Yeah.
Even though technically afterwards it was wrong because it's misrepresentative of what
and that's
doing.
You know, and that was all I was worried about. I'm like, look, you know, and I understand they waited a while to tell people the truth. But the truth was the truth. And I know that part of it, now to be fair, maybe there was a chance that he could have come back, even though that's not what was conveyed to us by the doctor. But maybe there was. And, you know, you want to cling to that hope.
And medical miracle.
Yeah, I understand that. I do understand that. And once that happens, there's protocols that they have to go through that take a while. It's not instantaneous, that to make sure that if somebody is declared brain dead, that they have to go through these protocols to make sure they're not going to come back. And I understand that, but you know what's funny was, like, I did nothing but help them and Holly, you know, when we were working on the show together, like we spent a day at Bryan Singer's house, you know, and I remember she even sent me an email saying, you know, we never could have got this interview if it wasn't for you. And I'm like, thank you, you know, and I appreciate that. But I really believed in what John was doing. I'd known John for years, and I thought he was a great creative force. And it was an interesting thing, but I find it interesting, of all the places that I've worked in my life, and I've had static with people, but not usually much, that, you know, these two instances, one with the Schmoedown and the other with the Collider Heroes thing, those were the two times where I was cut loose. And it was interesting to me that no one spoke up for me. And it's funny because, like, with the Schmoedown thing, I'm like, do you watch my channel? Do you watch my YouTube show? Do you know what my whole raison d'etre about life is all about? You know, it's about, let's get together and let's do cool shit and let's celebrate, you know, what we're doing. And it was very interesting to see people who I thought to literally come after you, and I was literally called a garbage person in social media by two people that I work with.
Yeah, and they're usually, I don't want to get too far into it, but they're usually a very low class kind of people that think that way. That want to identify you by this one fucking thing that you said or did that they didn't like. That's you.
Also,
that is all you.
I was playing a part, you know, and I was loud and obnoxious, but that was by design. And I think
that's
who you are.
That was you.
I think, though, to be fair, I didn't know them. You know, it's not like we hung out after school or something. They just didn't. I would show up, and I would do my thing, and I would leave. And I never went out to lunch with these people or dinner. They didn't really know me, you know. And I did what was asked of me, you know. And I would come in and do these bits, and I thought we had a really good time.
Robert,
there are two.
Sorry,
hold on. Mikey Sutton has said two things that I really want to bring to your attention. One, earlier he said that he would love to have you do an interview with you on Lords of the Long Box.
Oh yeah, I'd love that.
And so I'd like to get you two connected if you're not already connected. I think you did friend him on Facebook. You said, right?
Yeah, we're friends on Facebook.
Okay, yeah. Chat through there with him. He'll get that scheduled. And second, he wrote, "I love John. I wish I met him. I had the same stroke he had. In 2018, I was an hour away from dying. Strokes are scary. Rest in peace, John." And that is a fact. Mikey did not want to get online. We pushed him with Keith and I pushed him with Black Keith. I'm sorry. With Bomb.
Is that what we're calling him?
Bomb Missiano, who is Mikey's manager, who's been friends of mine for over a decade. I think we've been friends for 12 years, and he's the one who introduced Mikey and me. And we pushed Mike because Mike was very uncomfortable because of his stroke to get on live. He was terrified of it. He was. We had to push him kicking and screaming to get Geekosity magazine started. Now look what happened.
Yeah,
and you know, and I'm proud that Keith and I played a part in that, pushing him. And now look at him. He's wanting to interview you on Lords of the Long Box. That's how far we've come. And I'm so glad that he not only survived his stroke, but survived it. and moved on. And I think what Mikey's doing, I believe in Mikey Sutton. I know it's supposed to be Harvey Dent, but I believe in Mikey Sutton. Best scooper out there, and I hope you two build a relationship because I think you two will like each other a lot.
Well, I think what's cool about him, though, is there's a positivity to what he's doing. You know, it's there's an excitement, like, look, this is going to happen. You know, like, yeah, as opposed to being negative about things. Like I for the most part, like we live in a world where all this stuff that's happening, like I said earlier, it's all cool. Like we're in a world where we're getting a bunch of, and look, do I hate modern Star Trek? Yes. Do I bang on about it a lot? Yes. But I also recognize that there are people that are going to see Star Trek for the first time, like Discovery, like Picard, like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and that's going to be their first experience with Star Trek.
You don't want it to be. You don't want it to be.
No, it's not that. It will be, and I'm hoping it will lead people back to the original series and to Next Generation, and they'll love Star Trek.
I was about to say the same thing. I was like, it will lead them to the better Star Trek.
And I
get what you're saying. It's sort of like when they do a remake of a film. I always defend remakes for one good reason, that it will highlight the existence of the previous iteration of the film.
Yeah, and sometimes, like if you look at Cronenberg's The Fly and Carpenter's The Thing and Philip Kaufman's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, those are or even Chuck Russell's The Blob, those are great remakes.
Remakes,
so, and when
better
they go
than
back,
the originals.
Yeah, and when they go back and do something different, like John Carpenter went back to the original story, Cronenberg made The Fly uniquely his own with body horror, and Philip Kaufman did a great update that took into consideration what was going on in the 70s and applied it to the idea of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and you end up getting a great movie. So I'm not against remakes per se, but nowadays remakes are not happening because a filmmaker has a new interesting take. It's studios, corporate decision making that says, okay, we're going to go remake Total Recall and we're going to remake RoboCop. And it's not a filmmaker who's decided, I have a really great take on this, I really want to do a remake. It's the studio's like, well, what IP do we have here and what can we remake? So the idea behind it is not inherently creative. So I think inherently those remakes are creatively hampered, are hindered by the reason they're coming into being. And I think that's one of the real problems with our entertainment now is corporate interests and the idea of IP. They're so risk averse. They're like, what IP can we recycle? Not that we want to tell a great story. And I think the problem is, you always want filmmakers that are passionate about what they're going to do, because it's so hard to make a good movie, that you should pick filmmakers that have a passion for something as opposed to trying to find filmmakers, because you'll always find somebody who wants to take a job. But if your reasons for remaking RoboCop are simply because, we want to keep the IP alive, and they find a filmmaker, the director of that RoboCop remake had made the Elite Force films in his own home country, and they were fucking great. And like, you want a filmmaker like that to do something unique and new that he wants to do or she wants to do. You don't want to just throw them into an American remake, and of course they'll take the job because they want to work in Hollywood, and then you wind up doing something that's kind of soulless. The filmmaker can bring as much as they want to it, but
which is corporate filmmaking at its simplest.
And if they add, it has something to do with the licensing, like expiring. Like the Fantastic Four we got in the '90s was. I'm still upset over. I went
Roger Corman.
I went to the movie store like every week during the summer. Like, excuse me, has the Fantastic Four come? No, kid, get out of here. It's never coming. Every week. But like, do you think it has something to do with that as well? Like, things are getting ready to expire. The IPs or they're losing that licensing as well as.
I think that's definitely some part of it. I just think that it's so weird because where do you think these IPs came from in the first place? They were original ideas that people dreamed up,
right?
And when Paul Verhoeven came on, he'd made one English language movie. He'd made Flesh and Blood, and then he came on to
film, by the way.
Right. And Neumeyer and his collaborator wrote the script, and Verhoeven, that was magic. Their screenplay coupled with Verhoeven's sensibility created an IP. James Cameron creating Terminator and came out in '84. These were people that came up with these things. And what I don't understand is, why is the emphasis not on creating new things as opposed to in the studio? I know there's so much money. I get it. I mean, I understand the economics. Movies are so expensive now that you want to mitigate your risk. that's what people want to do. But at the same time, it's no one ever became successful in Hollywood following a trend. All of the great success stories in Hollywood were because people set trends. Star Wars, George Lucas, you know.
Well, now they're trying to make things by paint by numbers. You have to follow this box, and if they add in anything original or unique, it gets ripped out, or they get tossed when they say no. Like how many directors have we seen that happen? You know, it's always creative difference. Like, okay, that means they didn't follow the plan.
Well,
are you guys saying if we're going to get another taxi cab driver, it's going to be called the Uber driver?
Right. Well,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
And stuff too. You know, they go and get all this data and they analyze all the data and then try to.
Oh, like rewriting Ripley? Yep. They got so much data on that one.
Well, I mean, the thing about that is you can't quantify. You can have all the data sets you want. You know, you can, but what it never takes into consideration is what actually makes people like something. What is that quality of goodness or greatness that makes people respond to things? And they think it can be. I mean, the simple answer is, well, it's got to be great. You know, it's got to be kick-ass. But there's no way to quantify what that means. Right. And so they're trying to use data sets and analytics to figure out something that I don't think can be figured out.
Right, because it's authenticity. I think authenticity is what sets apart a lot of these movies. If you look at what Spielberg did with Jaws, you know, just what he had to overcome with having this dumb Bruce that doesn't even work, but they worked around it. It was authentic to the film, to filmmaking. Same thing with George Lucas, all the greats. And by the way, The Thing is my favorite horror movie of all time. I love it. And but it's authentic. You can't replicate or you can't duplicate something being real, something being authentic in that moment. You know what I mean? It's catching lightning in a bottle. You're not.
Well, I mean, what's so great is if you look at, like, there's a lot of people who talk about, you know, our woke entertainment, and there's a lot of weird, like, all of this identity politics, and it's really pernicious coming out of academia and stuff. And then when you look like in The Expanse, and you look at things like For All Mankind, and you see the kind of representation everyone's talking about done correctly, and I think the idea behind representation and inclusion is a correct one. Yes. We live in a world that's full of many different kinds of people, and a lot of these people have never had their voices heard. But I always say you can't trade one oppression for another. You have to move forward. We have to move forward together. And these kinds of these weird divisions that we're making in our culture is bizarre. And you look at something, the reason The Expanse works is because if you look at human culture, we are naturally intermarrying, mixing together, traveling around the world. There's the stigma of intermarriages, or at least in a lot of cultures in the West, are going away. Mm-hmm. And it will be a natural evolution of people to like have people of all kinds of mixed blood in the future. And The Expanse does a great job of that. They cast people that were all from all over the place, and because in the future that's where we're going to be. That's just going to be a natural, as we can travel, as it's easier to travel, people are going to meet people around the world more often than not. I mean, 65% of Americans don't even have passports.
And it's that difference that is at the heart of the story, that you have the belters, you know, and they identify, they can be different races, but they're belters.
Well, that's the funny thing, is they've transposed racial differences, because we've seen people from all different races.
It's very clever.
Yeah, nobody cares about racial differences anymore, because the human's race is entirely now intermixed or whatever. It's your Mars, Earth, or a belter. And that's really interesting. And then the different regions have their own differences. And the fact that the belters were, you know, being utilized or used by both Earth and Mars is a big deal. And now,
I also, by the way, I want to point out the accents in that show are so fucking awesome. The way, because you look at America and how, you know, all of the different accents across this country, and they took that idea and put it into space about how mixing dialects would create this whole new accent, and it's fucking brilliant.
No, it's really, and that kind of creativity is why, and of course, to be fair, The Expanse has the books to draw from.
Yes.
You know, and that is giving them a huge advantage. And I'm just surprised that there's so many great books that have yet to be adapted. I mean, we're talking about Foundation, you know, Dune's being readapted. On my shelf here, I'm looking around, I probably, you know, I've got a couple thousand books. And I could pick out 50 of them that could be turned into great movies if you found like a filmmaker that was passionate about. And I just don't understand why more of that isn't done.
I would love to see that.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says something, and I really want to point this out because it goes along with what we're talking about. The Expanse was passed where the preaching poisoned it at the end of the latest season. The irony was astounding, killed by the message. We're already past using cynical tools. I want to point out what we're talking about here is cancel culture again. Cancel culture is what led to that fucked up ending for the latest season. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it felt like, once again, I'm bringing it up, Pod People. This is not The Expanse. This is the Pod People version of The Expanse is how it felt those last 2 episodes. Yeah. And I'm not sure if, because they have a diehard fan base, but the fan base is also made up largely of people who don't like woke shit. And I fear that might hurt them. What do you think?
Look, I think that, I mean, it's hard to say because I don't look, everybody wants to be treated with respect. And I think what we're dealing with is yet at the same time, there is also there's life, you know, and life doesn't care about your feelings. And this idea is the idea that everybody wants social justice all the time, right now, for themselves. And they want the world to be exactly the way they think it should be. But the problem is a lot of the people that are asking for these things have not seen the world. They don't know what the rest of the planet is like. And their vision of what is right or just is not necessarily based on a sense of reality. It's based on an idea of this utopian idea that they think can possibly exist.
No common frame of reference.
And yes, and I'm like what you're asking. Like I don't understand college students who go to college and then scream and yell at the faculty. Like we saw that at Harvard. We saw it happen before I went to USC. I went to the Evergreen State College, and what happened there to like Brett Weinstein was disgusting. Yeah. It was so far away from the Evergreen that I had gone to in the 80s. I'm like, my God. Since when do you go to college to tell professors what they can go do with themselves? You go to college because you want the professors to teach you. And now there's this attitude that everybody already knows what they think the world should be like. I think the world should be like this. It has to be exactly the way I want it, or else I'm going to go march, or I'm going to get a faculty thrown out of college. I mean, it's so weird to me that people think that they know the way the world should be. I'm like, have you read history?
Human beings, irony is it's anti-diverse.
It is anti-diverse. Yes, and people are being segregated, and I mean, it's just insane to me. And what's weird is, I think humanity, as a natural state of our evolution, we were getting better. We're always getting better. I mean, I always look back to same-sex marriage. I mean, I had from the time I was very young a lot of gay friends, and a lot of since I was 12 and 13 years old. And I knew that some of my friends, one of my friends, my oldest friend in the world, has been married to his husband for a long time. The first time you could get married in California, and then it was rescinded. And he always wondered, but he said to me once, he goes, you know, I never would have believed that in my lifetime, I would have seen things change so quickly that I could marry my husband and it would be legal. And that the idea of same-sex marriage happened very, very fast. And then it was made the law of the land. This is what I mean by a natural evolution, where 20 years ago, this was not a reality in the United States. And now it is. And now people who you can marry whoever you want. And I think that was always going to happen. And it happened naturally. It wasn't people necessarily. I mean, sure, there was Stonewall and things go all the way back to the whole history of LGBTQ people in this country, but it happened. And it happened naturally because ultimately it's the right thing to do. because there are people that are gay. They've existed since the dawn of time. And the fact that their existence is recognized and they should be able to lead their best lives is something that should happen. And it did happen. And we're seeing these changes happening as a natural progression of our civilization. But now I feel over the last 5 years, it's somehow been derailed, that everybody wants what they want right now. And they forgot that these things take time. There is an evolutionary process.
We've seen that growth, though. We've seen that, society started becoming a fast food convenience store mentality. Everything now. And this has really been going since the 80s, growing slowly.
Yes, it has.
And because I remember seeing it before I went in the Army in 1990 and thinking, I hope we catch this and stop it before it really gets big, because this is a problem.
Well, we all remember
this mindset.
Sunday, you couldn't go to the store or anything. Sunday, things were closed.
Yeah, I'm in Texas. I'm in Texas. We still believe in our Jesus. Don't you be trying to buy liquor on Sunday.
Yeah, and I grew up in Virginia, where if you wanted liquor, you went to a government licensed liquor store.
Same in Washington State, where I grew up.
Yeah, you didn't buy, and they were closed on Sundays.
Yep.
And Phoenix, on the other hand, was completely different, because I spent the first half of my life in Phoenix as a child, and it was just like, whenever you want to buy some liquor, go to the grocery store.
Well, Mr. Tickle Trunk here has a comment. He says, I recommend The Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker, and he maps out how things are the best they've been in all of human history. Well, I would like to echo that statement, because there's an Israeli writer who's also a historian named Yuval Harari. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a book called Sapiens, and then a follow-up called Homo Deus. And Sapiens, wildly entertaining book. It basically talks about the first 100,000 years of human history. And by the end of the book, he says, we're in the best, there's less war, less famine. There's still all kinds of poverty and racism and all that stuff, but we're in the best place. Humanity's in the best place we've ever been. But he says the question that we have to ask ourselves as a race, and I mean, there's one race of people on this planet, the human race. That's it.
Right.
You want to have your differences and there's one race of people. And we have to ask ourselves, this is the question he poses at the end of the book. What is it we want to be? Where do we want our species to go? And what do we want to do? And then his next book, Homo Deus, is a projection of what the future could be. He kind of tries to answer that question. And I think that, nowadays, look, as a function of social media, everybody is a little myopic. Everyone's the center of their own universe now. And I think we've sort of forgotten. I mean, we don't teach civics in school anymore. Our schools used to provide, even our public school system, used to provide a great general education platform. When I was in public school, I went to a great public school that was well funded, but we had music programs and drama programs and sports programs and all kinds of arts programs and all these different things, because when you are becoming a fully realized human being, you're exploring all of these things. And nowadays I feel that our schools are just teaching for a test. You come up with Common Core math or something, you're like, what? Yeah. And yes, there's all these people that say, well, yes, education it's been biased the whole time. And I'm like, okay, well, look, that might be true, but math and science and and letting kids as they're growing up have places to explore. Like maybe you were scared to take a drama class, but you have to because it's part of what you need to do. And we're not providing people an environment to explore their potential. And that's what education is all about. General education should be its own reward. Yeah. And now everything is like, well, we're not going to do this. We're not going to pay for this unless there's profitability here. Yeah. And
do you think, Rob? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you think also that that the way it's working now is they're not only being bred as a way to getting to as a paycheck? Pretty much, students are now paychecks. They've been for a while, but they're now being bred to only. I just lost the train of thought. They're being trained to do nothing more than pay for the next level education. They don't care what the title is because they're not actually growing in the intellect of the imagination of the education they want to go towards. Like trades seem to be a better option, yet that doesn't even seem to be shown as often when it should be.
No, I agree. I mean, where are the trade schools? And I think that, a lot of people a lot of people just it's funny. I people ask me a lot, young people, like, how can I become a YouTuber? And I'm like, it's hard.
It is.
Like going on YouTube every day, talking into a camera, it's not easy to do. No. And a lot of people are seeing it happen, and like this space. I'm all for anybody jumping into a space and sharing what they want to share, but it's a grind, and anybody who does YouTube a lot will tell you that. But I think a lot of people think it's easy, like it's an easy path to a career. And I'm like, look, man, if you're going to go on YouTube, you need something to say. Like, what's going to make you different than the next person that makes people want to tune in and watch you? Like, I watch YouTubers. There's people that I don't even like. There's a YouTuber named Davey504. He's got almost like 10 million subscribers. He plays the bass guitar. He's got the shtick. He's funny. You know, I like tuning into Davey504. It has nothing to do with my interests. I just think he's an Italian guy. He plays the bass. He loves the bass guitar. His channel's very funny. Or a guy named the Strad Man, who's part of the automotive YouTube, and he's a young guy who buys supercars, and he's been on YouTube for years and has built up his channel. I watch his channel because, one, I like the cars that are on the channel, but the guy's always got a smile on his face, and it looks like he's having a good time. And if something goes on wrong, I'm like, God damn it, I'm pissed. I'll just watch a Strad Man video, whatever new video he's got. Nothing that I know. I don't know anything about supercars, but I'll watch his channel, and which has led me to other YouTubers like Supercar Blondie, who travels around the world. She's like in Dubai now, buying supercars. I'll never be able to afford a supercar because even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't buy one. But I watch their channels because they put a smile on my face.
There's also Mad Mardigan with his channel, Street Smots, every Tuesday and Saturday.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And that's, you know. But I think that now we have to bring back the idea that general education is a reward unto itself.
I agree. I have a third grader, and my ex and I are appalled at what we've been put through in the last 2 years, as far as curriculum, the way the teachers communicate, everything that comes with it.
I don't understand it at all. Like, I'm like, who do you think you're serving? You know, like who do you like? It's incredible to me. Like, people want to get rid of old foundational texts like Shakespeare. Oh, he's an old white guy. What does he have to say to anyone? I'm like, no. His stories are universal. Right. You know, the stories, that's why they've endured for hundreds of years.
Yeah, it's a human truth.
It's human truth. And all great stories it doesn't matter who tells the story. You know, if you're reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, or you're reading To Kill a Mockingbird, or whatever, the Scarlet Letter, which I heard they got to get rid of that. All of the great stories have truths, you know, in them, and that's why they endure. That's the best stories, and those truths apply to everyone. It doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from, and that's why, you know, if you read a great novel by, say, like Octavia Butler, a black, gay, female science fiction writer, she's written great fucking books. You know, you don't have to be black or gay or a woman to understand her great books like The Kindred. You know, you read the book, it's a good book. And it doesn't matter who wrote it or what color they are or what their sexuality is. A great story is a great story. And what we want is all people that want to tell stories, or all these people to be unfettered, like freed up. Like, I'm a huge believer in the people that haven't told their stories to be able to tell their stories, because their stories are only going to make our world that much more rich and interesting. But you can't bring other voices up and then silence the voices that we already have.
Right.
You can't do that. We need all of the voices. You don't want to get rid of Western literature and say that, oh, it's systemically racist or whatever. The world was systemically racist. Human beings have been horrible to each other since we came out of the trees. There was never a period of time where there was some utopian civilization. We were fucked up always. And it's like the idea that, well, let's get rid of these because, oh, this was colonialism, or this was go back.
It's about controlling the meta narrative, though. That's what it is. It's if they control the meta narrative, then they have the power in society. So the only way to do that is to get rid of all these voices that you're speaking of, and to put them aside. And equity is what they use for replacing. Like, you know what I mean? Is making Captain America black. Why? because of the equity. See, you can't just have an original character because they wouldn't have the same platform that a Captain America have. So rather than trying to do something original, we take something that's already been here for a long time and then we just switch it out, either gender or race.
But I think in the case of Captain America, even in the comics, if you go back and you look in the comics, whether it's John Walker as U.S. agent or Sam or Bucky, they've all taken on the mantle of Captain America. And what I actually like about that is obviously I like that the Marvel universe is moving on. Like once Steve Rogers, is an old man now. He can't take on the mantle, so they continue this larger meta narrative, which harks back to the comics. Which I'm all for that. I mean, I did think that the story of Isaiah Bradley and Sam Wilson, when Isaiah Bradley and they have that conversation, like they're never going to let a black man be Captain America, and Sam Wilson's like, you're wrong. The time the time is different now, and I think those are the conversations that are worth having, especially in the context of a science fiction, fantasy, or horror series, because that's the place that makes these kinds of conversations more accessible. That's what Rod Serling was doing in the Twilight Zone. Roddenberry couldn't directly address the Vietnam War on Star Trek, and to do so. Instead, there's a second season episode of the original series called "A Private Little War," where Kirk's friend Tyree, part of the Hill people, is in a beef with the villagers that are being armed by the Klingons, and they flat out did a whole episode about Vietnam under the guise of science fiction action adventure. They never would have got away with that on TV at the time, but they could in a science fiction context, and I think that's what fantasy can do. That's best. And I think one of the things
allegorical storytelling.
And I have to say that I was very surprised. And yes, literally in the 6th episode of Falcon the Winter Soldier, Falcon gives a speech. But you know what? I thought it was a surprisingly nuanced speech that he gives. He's speaking truth to power. And I like that because, America does still have a race issue. The fact that black soldiers coming back from World War II could not avail themselves of the GI Bill. Well, that's a huge smear, and because of that, the middle class that was created post World War II was black families were left out of that. There could have been generational wealth that was created. This happened. This is part of our American history. So I think that when you're going to talk about these issues, this is how you talk about them. You talk about the reality of black soldiers were let down by America, soldiers that fought bravely for this country. Let's talk, and we won't even talk about the Tuskegee experiments. But so that, to me, if you're going to bring that up in a Captain America series or Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that's a legitimate thing to discuss. Isaiah Bradley was you've got the Tuskegee experiments, you've got the fact black soldiers didn't get to avail themselves of the GI Bill, all of those things swirling around in Isaiah Bradley, which, by the way, came from a great comic series called The Truth that was in the early aughts. So that was Isaiah's character was definitely established, and his plight in the Marvel universe. And Marvel's going back and taking a page from, like they do all the time, from their own comics. This is how to talk about these things, because everybody will sit down and watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, and if they can be given something to chew on, and like, what? Isaiah Bradley has a point, and what happened to him was terrible, and we can learn from that. And now I think that there's a difference between something that's necessarily woke or something that weaves in real history, real problems in an interesting way that isn't necessarily preachy, but addresses these things directly. And I think that's great storytelling. And when people say, I don't want politics, I'm like, it's fucking Captain America, man. He was created to fight Nazis. He is inherently political. If you read Ed Brubaker's run on the Winter Soldier, which is terrific, by the way,
best, yeah,
so good. I mean, one day I bought those. I had 3 Captain America omnibuses. I read them. I sat there for like 10 hours and just read the entire run. I mean, these are important things and yet they have to be done not in a like Star Trek Discovery. To me, it just panders. Whereas, when Deep Space Nine, for instance, they have a black captain it was never being black was not his thing.
Dad.
His wife, it was a single dad. One of the greatest portrayals of a father-son relationship, not just a black father and son, but any father and son in the history of television.
Amen.
Amen.
You know, and they never, yes, they did Far Beyond the Stars, where it was an episode that directly addressed racism, but you know, that's not what they made him a captain, but they never talked about how there was, look at the secondary cast of that show. It was incredibly diverse, and all the guest stars they brought in, the relationships people had. I mean, you know, no one's thinking about, oh, well, you know, Avery Brooks was black. No, they think about the fact that Avery Brooks was in The Pale Moonlight. He justified killing a Romulan to bring the Romulans into the war against the Dominion. That's what people think about, how
he was
fucking rad
really,
he was.
in my opinion, one of the toughest captains in Star Trek. With that episode where he's about to destroy an entire race, is willing to do it. I sat there with goosebumps going, oh my God, this is somebody I'd followed in the military. I would have followed a guy like that.
And the thing is, the stories they told, he was matter-of-factly black. They put him on, they cast him as a lead in that role. They made him a great father. And yes, he is black, but the representation was putting him in the position and not telling all these stories about his blackness, you know, and he was just a great,
the blatant use of tokenism. Exactly. And it was just good storytelling, and the guy's black.
And think about it. If you think about the diversity of you know, Michael Dorn, black actor, you know, think about, you had Cassidy Yates, you had Jake, you know, Sirach Lofton, and then you had Brock Peters playing their grandfather and father. Yep. And it was they never shied away from those kinds of stories in Star
Peters,
Trek.
The other Darth Vader.
Brock
Right.
Peters.
A lot of people don't know that.
The other Darth Vader from the radio series, right?
That's right.
NPR, yeah. But I mean, I think that's what we need to do, and we've got it. For All Mankind and The Expanse are telling stories, relevant stories today that really resonate with people. And I think that, look, I'm watching Them. I don't know if you guys have watched Them. Man, that is it's a horror show.
Yeah, someone mentioned that earlier, and I'm going to have to check it out.
But it's horrific. You know, and I was talking to a friend of mine, a black director, last night, and he's like, man, this show is really, because black trauma, it's all about that. And it's hard to watch. The first episode made me want to jump out of my white skin, let me tell you. It's a rough show, but it's a horror show. It's supposed to be rough, and it's dealing directly with what is it like to be black in America in 1953. You know,
that couldn't be fun. No,
it was, and moving to based in real history. It is a rough show, but I can't believe it's now being attacked. Its creator he's African American. It's his first show, and he is pulling no punches, and he's being attacked. Like, is this the kind of show that we should really be using our power to I'm like, what the fuck? You've now got you have a black creator putting on his show, and he's being attacked now because, oh, wait a minute, your show's all about black trauma. Well, no one said that about 12 Years a Slave, but because it's a horror show, what, are you going to attack this now? I mean, people can't win. You can't win in our society now.
No,
you know, why don't you respect somebody who's done a show and do an analysis of what it's about?
I think some people
move the goalposts.
It's like people don't know irony, shouldn't be writers, but the fact is they don't recognize things. I just watch people all the time see something and not catch the irony. And what you're talking about is like you can't show them something that is within a certain area and have them understand the subject matter. They'll go 12 Years a Slave. Oh, I get it. That's okay. Well, now this is modern. This is just blatant criticism on conservatism. And it's like, well, no, it was a criticism of the culture at the time.
Gerry, they use the subtlety of a baseball bat to the temple now. I mean,
yeah.
You know.
Well, did they do that in Walking Dead?
Lovecraft Country?
Well, I think, look, to me, I love the more people that are telling their stories, the more voices we're hearing, the better off we are going to be. And I am a firm believer in that. And I think that the problem is now it's that we aren't being truthful in what we're trying to say. we are overcompensating, and we're not going about it the right way. And I think what we really need to get back to is we need to start the foundational. We have to take care of things like poverty, and we have to get I think as a matter of national security, one of the first things we need to do is bolster our educational system. And if you have kids that are or places that are depressed economically, we got to put the best teachers. You got to spend money, and you've got to get all of our people educated, because the rest of the world is going to kick our ass in 20 or 30 years. Well, while we go up our own asses worrying about diversity and all this, what we should be doing is we need to be able to rise people. We have to give people the tools that they can rise up themselves, which means education is at the very beginning of that. And if you're in an area, if some place doesn't have much money and doesn't have good teachers, we got to send teachers there. We got to pay the money. We got to rise up and make our civilization, the United States.
We need to straighten out how the money is moved. This is the problem. I've been involved with education. I got to tell you, 70% of the money for education goes to administration.
Yep.
70% of the money for education, public education, goes to administration. 30% goes to the schools, and a small percentage of that 30% goes to the teachers. If we do not rethink this, the school system that was established in this country has failed completely. And it's failing right now.
No,
absolutely failing. Yeah. And I know Natasha doesn't like charter schools, but charter schools is aggressively contrarian to that. No matter what you want to say about public schools, the charter system actually works against the way they run the public school system. What you need to do is get the public school system running operationally to where the teachers and the students are getting a greater portion of that money going into schools. When you see an administrator making six figures, that irritates the shit out of me.
You mean like every DRE?
They cut phys ed, and they cut art programs, and they cut all these.
All the time.
Yeah.
I was lucky, like you brought this up earlier, Robert. I went to Fredericksburg Public Schools from the grade 4th on, all the way through high school. And we had art, we had music, we had drama, and we had all these things we had access to, which are so necessary for even the sciences. If you want to be good at sciences and math, you need to be good at drama and art, because it helps change the way you look at things.
I have to say, I worked on this movie called Geography Club that some friends of mine made. It was an adaptation of Brett Hartinger's novel. And we were shooting at a high school during the summer. And I was shooting behind the scenes, so I had all my equipment in this one room that was open for me. And this room was actually like a textile classroom. And the woman who taught it, the whole room was full of the students. I asked the woman that was opening the school for us what this was, and this woman, they designed clothes, and then every Friday the people in the class would sell the clothes they've designed to other students. And this room was huge. It was like 2 classrooms. It was amazing, all this work that had been done. And on the back behind the teacher's desk, there were all these letters from former students of hers that had written in and said, I had no idea that I was interested in this. I made clothes. I went into art school. I went to college. Now I'm designing clothes for this, or now I'm doing that for this. It was incredible. Right. It was incredible. And then I asked the woman, I said, this classroom is amazing. What happened? And the woman tells me, there's this class is no longer, it's not coming back in the fall. And I said, and the teacher was like, and I'm like, what? She goes, I know, and there just isn't the funding for something like this. And I'm like, has anyone come in and read the letters from students or looked around this classroom? I mean, the idea, what the inspiration that these kids learn. Like when I was in high school, I wrote for the high school newspaper, and it was back in the day where we had to literally, we had to print out our little columns and put chart pack tape up and actually lay up our own pages. And I didn't even know I liked doing that, but it was something that you learn in school. That's what school's all about. It's supposed to explore, and it's supposed to be able to tell you what you can do and where you can go and explore who you are as a person. And now we're getting rid of all of that in order to what? It all has to like make sense on a balance sheet. Well, you can't make sense of someone, the spark of inspiration. You can't quantify what a person's going to become when they're exposed and they learn as much as they can. You never know where that's going to go. But I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to go anywhere if we don't provide the kind of education people need, the kind of education we had 30 or 40 years ago in this country that is going away.
Amen. Well, and now they're spending a bunch of money to put social justice into hard science and math. Like they're saying, 2 + 2 isn't 4.
No, no, 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah,
that's Canadian schools. So
this is American.
First of all, Gary, go fuck yourself. Secondly, that's not possible because all the paper would be too white for most of the students in there.
But they're literally making race-based questions for math instead of just trying to teach the basics of math. It's insane.
Black Jim runs down the street at 50 miles an hour. White Jim is running at opposite of speed. Who's going to get arrested?
That's
fist?
some of the questions. Like that.
I know, but I'm being serious.
These are. You're being
I know through the laughter.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, because it's so fucking stupid to us.
Well, there you go. That's the education system today. But. Hey, I'm being cognizant of the fact that you're down to your second 14 minutes before you go live on your stream.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was watching it, it was like, I wanted to interrupt, but you were on a fucking roll, Robert. You were on this roll, and I'm like,
be known, I put a note in the back as well. I in the private chat, I put
your notes, man.
I said, hey, 5 minutes before his stream starts. I was there.
I saw it. I was also watching it because I've had his stream over on my other screen, watching the time on it, and
I don't even know what I'm going to do a show about. I'm going to say I hope that I can start at 4.
Do a whole show about what a fucked up mess doing our show was.
Or just invite all of us over to your stream, and then we can just continue.
What Robert needs to do is to go live on his channel, but share this screen so we can continue the conversation.
That's hilarious. I could do that. That's hilarious.
Robert Meyer live.
I do think that on one hand, one of the great things that somebody pointed out, and I'm going to say this, I don't understand why there's so much dislike towards him, but Jordan Peterson said something interesting, and I watch a lot of intellectual dark web stuff. I watch Joe Rogan. I'll watch anybody that has.
I love every name you mentioned. I love.
He's brilliant, though. Red Skull even quoted him.
I know, right? but Jordan Peterson said something that was really interesting about media. I watched it this week. I don't remember who he was streaming with. But he said, "Look, our media has turned into sound bites and these just little morsels, and we're not." Even the papers of note, like the New York Times, the kind of journalism that they used to pay for and that they would be known for is all gone by the wayside because of money. And now the place that people have gone is YouTube, where you can sit down and you can watch a conversation that's 2 or 3 hours long, like what Joe Rogan's doing. He'll do these deep dives with his guests, and you really get a sense of who they are, and you really learn from like Thomas Sowell, who is he's a conservative black economist. I didn't know much about Thomas Sowell. I had never considered myself necessarily conservative, but I started watching him and reading some of his stuff, and I'm like, he's got a lot of really interesting things to say, and I didn't realize that he's become such a divisive person. But I started watching a lot, and what I love about it is I can watch whatever I want. I can go down a rabbit hole and follow someone, whether it's Thomas Sowell or Jordan Peterson or some space scientist that I've never heard of that'll talk about astronomy for 4 hours. And you can do that on YouTube, and you can follow these things and really listen and benefit from these long conversations that people are having with one another all around the world. Or Yuval Harari, when I was reading Sapiens, you go back and you're like, oh, I wonder if he's on YouTube. Well, of course he's on YouTube. And then you can watch him lecture for 3 hours. You can go to the Oxford Union and watch one of their shows where they have a guest on and someone will talk for 3 hours or whatever. And then the students from Oxford will ask very educated questions. And it's interesting. That's where our world is going. And all of the traditional things like traditional media, they're all letting us down. We're getting sound bites, or we're getting headlines that are meant to either gotcha headlines. And we're losing the ability to really understand, like, what is truth anymore? What is really happening? What's going on? Everything is spin. And I think one of the things that YouTube does is it allows people to sit down and have, like, I remember, you know, I went and had a stream with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you and Jeremy, you're totally opposite ends of the spectrum, you know, and what's going to happen there. And I was like, you know what? When I said he's a fan, right? We had a delightful time. I really liked Jeremy. I'm like, sure, he might not. We totally diametrically opposed politically, and there's a lot of things that Jeremy says. I'm like, oh shit, man, I would never say that. But I had a delightful stream with him, and like, if I would hate to think that I wouldn't have sat down and have a great conversation whenever we see each other. He's been very complimentary of me, very nice to me, and yet when we sat down and actually he invited me on his stream, I went. We had a great conversation. And here's somebody that politically we might have been on opposite ends of a protest, but we sit down, we talk, we had a great conversation because we both are fans. We both
this
love
goes
this
right
stuff.
back to what we talked about earlier, you know, that the middle ground is the thing that we talk about. We can ignore the stuff that's more diversive, you know, because like Keith and I, politically opposed, we have never had an argument. We've discussed things, didn't agree, moved on. And it's what you did with Jeremy. Jeremy, even as a conservative, he says things and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah.
But I love Jeremy. I love everybody over there at Geeks and Gamers.
And also, you know, he started a company. He's got a group of people that he's taking care of. You know, he's running it like a business, which he should. And he's got a network of people. And I'm impressed. You know, and I again, we sit down and we talk and we have a great conversation. And I think that there's got to be more of that. And one thing that the YouTube pundit space has really been, like, I've sort of been embraced by people. I'll talk to, like, I didn't know Az and I actually are more politically on the same mind. We just come at things differently. I've had a great time. I met him because of Midnight's Edge. And I've had a great time. We did 18 prisoner streams and we've done like 21 Hot Toys streams. We're going to do it as a one-time show, and nope. No, we keep doing it. And I've met people I would never have met if it wasn't for YouTube.
Yeah,
I think. What was his name? Writer, old. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he said that, you know, the most boring of all conversations are conversations where everybody agrees. May have been Michel de Montaigne, the French philosopher, that said it. If I'm not mistaken about that, but I think it still holds true. Now, you said that Jeremy said things that you don't agree with, or name 3.
Oh gosh, I would be hard pressed to just you know, more like comments, more things that he said, you know, asides. Yeah, but I mean I couldn't tell you something.
I do have a real question though, because you mentioned this earlier. It was For All Mankind, the Apple TV. I watched the first episode and my girlfriend and I were like, oh, on board. This is awesome. And then we saw like all women on the 3rd episode. Okay, never mind. I didn't know we were going to take that big of a turn. But you said something about it earlier. Did you actually think that it did the diversity and the inclusion well?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I love it. I
Mad
love
doesn't like women. That's the problem.
No, not at all.
No, I love what they've done, and I think the episode that aired today is one of the finest hours of television I've ever seen.
All right, so
I literally was on the edge of I felt I was going to have a heart attack at some point, and then the stuff. It was so well done. I mean, it was the culmination. A lot of people didn't like the second season very much because they said, "Oh, it's just character stuff. It's like a big soap opera." But if they hadn't done what they did, the last 2 episodes of the season would not have worked nearly as well. And my God, I tweeted out. I said the end of For All Mankind came across the finish line like Jesse Owens at the 1936 Olympics.
I have a statement in the chat for you, Robert. It says, Elizabeth Bell says, I've been texting him and telling him to wrap it up. I think he's ignoring me, lol.
No, that's my girlfriend, Elizabeth. She's my biggest fan.
But we can move on then.
Yeah, but when did character development and world building become like, it's so boring?
Certainly in the 8th season.
It can be done well. Yeah. The one good thing about Game of Thrones towards the later, seasons is they figured out how to hold A to fast travel. Because if it wasn't for that, I mean, my God, it took them so long to get from one place to another. Just hold A, man. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and it's a bummer. But no, I mean, I'm sorry if I derail. We got in this conversation of non-geeky stuff,
awesome.
like someone talking about education. I'm telling you my travails in the past, but it's it's kind of cathartic. This became kind of cathartic for me.
When you come back, Robert, can we just draw hand turkeys for 3 hours and just go really into the education?
Do it.
Finger paint.
I mean, do they even do that anymore? Remember, you do that and you draw the little turkey thing? Yeah. I mean, nowadays they probably wouldn't do that because it's oppressive to look what happened to the Native Americans.
100%.
Or PETA will come after you because turkey.
Yeah.
Is that hand turkey being fed enough? Are you using whole grain crayons on those turkeys? You better be.
I mean, what I find so strange is that there is a lack of understanding of our horrible human history. We're a terrible bunch, humanity, but we can be great. But I mean, our history, what we've done to one another, not so good.
Well, I mean, there's the philosophical question of like whether or not that we could be great without, our darkest of moments. It's the whole thing where, can you truly be happy without it? Like, can you really appreciate being happy without ever being unhappy? It's the finite existence that we all have makes ice cream as good as it tastes as good as it does because we're not guaranteed ice cream tomorrow. As an example, I'm sure there was better ones to make, but that's what I went with.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree with you, but I've always said on my show, if you think about it, in the cosmic infinitude of the universe, like the old Dr. Manhattan or Dr. McCoy speeches, there's only one of each of us. Mm-hmm. In the entire infinitude of the universe. That's why Dr. Manhattan left Mars, the thermodynamic miracle of life. And every single person from that perspective, every single human being on this planet their value is beyond compare, beyond measure, because there's only one of them. And the idea that we would allow any human being to fall through the cracks or to be oppressed or is a failing of our human race. And one day we'll get there. I mean, I really believe, I'm not going to see it, but one day the value of humanity will be recognized by the one place it's never been recognized, and that's humanity itself.
We need first contact, so we all come together for some bigger purpose. Right?
Yeah,
we've had first contact. He wrote Discovery. Now we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish that we would, and I think ultimately everybody, when you think about all the, whether it's diversity, whether it's inclusion, all it is about is people who ultimately want to be valued, and we need to value other people. That's it. And if we had that, if we valued one another and looked upon, I know it's some kumbaya bullshit, but it's true. If you just found the value in other people, then we would have we could spend more time bettering ourselves. And, we just don't.
Have you thought
we are genetically predisposed to, if somebody doesn't look the same as our tribe, then we don't like them, because genetics tell us that, they might come to take our water supply, like the apes in 2001 who were touched by the monolith. They come up, what's the first thing they do? Oh, well, we're going to come take your water. And they
learned to weaponize bones.
They did. They learned and then boom, thanks a lot, monolith. A million years later, we still hate each other. I mean, it's like, come on, man.
Goddamn aliens. I want to try to wrap this up because we've actually gone 3.5 hours, and
I've only been here for like an hour, so I don't know.
I haven't disappointed one woman. Hell yeah.
I want to invite Elizabeth onto the show because now that I know she's like, I know her, but I don't think she has a Twitter page.
She does, but she just doesn't use it. E.G. Bell.
E.G. Bell. E.G. Bell. I'm going to remember that and friend you or follow you or whatever they fucking call it on Twitter. But let's get this wrapped up and let you get back to your show that you have
pushed off for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's sorry.
But this has been a very engaging episode, and you're just a great guest.
Cool, thank you. You guys have been a great panel. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's been on.
Thank you for being here. Keith is in the chat. I think there's stuff going on at home. He couldn't continue on the show, but he wants you to come back. He wrote that in the chat, and I know he means it because we really enjoy your show. I started following you way back, before all the shit went down with Axanar. I knew who you were.
Oh, yeah. That's another fucking mess.
Oh my!
Yeah, I ran into.
Leave it to me. I always, maybe that's a failing of me. Maybe I need to look at myself and go, maybe all these problems are really mine.
Well,
they usually are.
I look at things this way. It's like I know one thing for certain. I'm a complete dick, and I'm a dick to my friends. I'm a real dick to people I don't like. Proof of example is what some of you guys read that I said to that guy today on Twitter because of Doomcock. Because I enjoy Doomcock. I enjoy the crap out of him. He gets overly theatrical for me sometimes, but when he's off that voice thing and just talking, I enjoy him. I think he's got a lot to say. And I know you two have streamed at least once together, as I recall, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've been on streams before. Yeah.
And I don't know what and you have the same reaction I do, which is I don't blame my friends up and below me who hide who they are. Doomcock has created this theatrical character.
Yeah, he's playing a part.
Yeah, he's playing a part, but
look what I got you, Robert.
And there is a him in there mixed in.
Yeah.
But it is it reminds me of Kiss theatrics. You remember Kiss? Let's put on the makeup and be somebody else.
Don't say that. Don't say we're gonna get like Doomcock's tongue is gonna make an appearance as the next character. Don't do that.
And at first it annoyed me. It really did. Doomcock did, but he grew on me, and I like really enjoy it now. It's like I can watch his shows, and I put him on the TV behind me here, and my wife and I will listen to whatever his latest rant is.
Yeah,
got that little bubble theme, and it just makes me giggle and makes me feel like a kid. But you, on the other hand, you're more of a historian. You're a history teacher talking about things that Keith and I fucking love deeply. And you go into great detail, but the best part is you'll have like 5 or 6 things that you're talking about, but they all come to a complete point.
And I try. Sometimes I lose the plot.
I've not caught it yet. I've not caught that yet. I have to say that I like the way that you push things together. I don't know if you write your episodes before you do them or not, but you're great on camera.
Thank you.
Camera, man.
I do think.
Gerry
what is Mad Mardigan laughing?
Gerry loves that you push things together.
Yes, well, because he was saying that as I'm reading fucking Fat Steven in the chat, going like, "Oh, Keith is like having a man crush or whatever."
Oh, Keith,
and then he's like,
Keith
"Just love the way you push things."
Keith
together.
has such a fucking adoration of you. It's and it's not ridiculous. I think you're a very admirable person.
He has a body pillow with your face on it, and he caresses it every night before he goes to sleep.
Well,
Jesus, here we go. Here. This is when I start to try to bring this to a close. The grabassery begins.
You better hope Yeti never develops a crush on you. You'll never get the smell off.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Yeti! It is fucking crushes.
Does anyone else smell burnt tauntaun? What the fuck?
They smell bad on the outside.
Come on, Yeti, say something.
Well, I really enjoyed being here with you. Fuck Yeti. It was an honor to. I'm just going to jump ahead. It was an honor to meet you. I've always been a big fan of yours. I'm not subscribed to your channel at all. I haven't seen anything you've done in a long time, but I am a big fan.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's not really kissing ass.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here.
I will subscribe. Yeah.
And what Elizabeth says here is what I'm saying about you. You're a very good spontaneous speaker. We never script anything we do, but that's why we derail so easily.
Well, I'm lucky that I only do it myself. So I
couldn't do that.
I derail myself though. It's sometimes I usually, to be honest, I try and find a topic that somehow it's not news related, because we do that on the John Campea show, but some topic that relates back to what's going on in the entertainment world somehow, or something that I'm thinking about, and then try and find articles or something to support that. And that's kind of that's my process. And then I've got letters that people send in. And of course,
I like that stuff. And I would never read the letters that I get.
Subscribing right now.
He can't read.
I can't read. I went to an American public school.
With 2 R's.
But wow, we're getting a lot of Elizabeth said something again. You should subscribe.
I'm doing
yeah,
it.
Mad Mardigan. Fucking get
he
on
only
with the hell's wrong with
subscribes
you?
something. He only subscribes to channels that start with Mad and end with Mardigan. That's the only thing he subscribes to.
At least once an episode, Keith will bring you up. I bring you up every third episode. He brings you up every episode.
Well, that's very nice.
So Keith has a huge man crush on you. And of course, I'm referring to not white Keith. I'm talking about my partner, Keith.
But I also bring R&B up.
Yes.
He has another body pillow. Yes.
Yeah, the other Keith wants to know if you'll sign his life-size waifu of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We want to get you back on the show again. It'll be on a Friday again.
Yeah.
This is our TGIF. But we are trying to get to a new show going for Saturdays, which I'm just referring to as PCM Saturday Night Live, where we go live for a couple hours, not 3.5 hours. But damn it, we've maintained an audience, this whole time because you're so engaging. Well, God damn it. I understand why Keith is so in love with you.
Now you're making me blush.
Wait until you hear how I've subscribed and followed you.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
But Matt just joined our team, and I'm really glad. And Keith, too. White Keith up above. And we
just
try to
love
keep
knowing somebody that named themselves after a character from Willow.
I think, yes. Mad Mardigan of the second name.
Yeah, but you put the T in
of
there.
his name. Yep. Huh.
You put the T in
Mardigan.
there.
That's how it's spelled.
I thought it's Mad Mardigan.
No, he's literate. It's Mad
Mardick again.
He was literate.
Mad Mardigan and Fat Steven know each other outside the show too. I want to thank you for coming on the show, Robert. We really appreciated it.
Well, this is the fastest 3.5 hours I've spent.
Well, you were talking about interesting subjects, and when you talk about something you care about, it goes by so quickly. Yeah. But I want to go ahead and get us out of here. So I want to thank the chat. Great job, guys. We really appreciate you. Super chat. All you guys are awesome. And Robert, we want you back again and as soon as possible because there's so much stuff going on right now. Over the last 2 years, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a lot of things are happening in the entertainment industry. Yeah. And there's changes. And this is something that we didn't even cover a lot of it. And we could do a whole other episode just talking about what's going on with the film industry and TV industries.
And if you have any links, please put it in the private chat, please, Robert, so we can share it out.
But thank you, chat. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I want to thank my panel, my dais. Keith was here. He would be sucking up to you guys, too. But with that, this is another episode of Pop Culture Minefield. And as we always say, get off our lawns! And we're out of here.
When do we say?
Guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield.
We've never said that.
If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe.
Not that I remember.
Don't forget to hit the bell icon.
Shut up, Gerry, and shut
Remember,
up, Steven.
you can find us at Pop Culture Minefield on both Facebook and Instagram. Thank you again.
Coming in for the save.
People still use Instagram?
Sometimes. Hey, at least he didn't put MySpace up there.
Well, Tom's very lonely.
Where's my name?
Did you get? It was at the beginning.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you missed it.
Put me in there?
No, you fuckers aren't in there yet.
Oh, fuck you then.
I got to create a whole new. Outro title.
Turn down the music in here. Oh my
God. I actually have a channel now.
It feels like we're stroking.
It's not like we need subs. Monetized person.
That panhandling's on Saturdays, not Friday.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're still going.